kitchen. So many recipes to share. So many cooks in the kitchen with meals for you to prepare. We've got fruits and grains, veggies and beans, more healthy food than you've ever seen. So many cooks in the kitchen, plant-based meals to prepare. So many cooks in the kitchen with ideas for happy share.
Hello, everybody. My name is Dilla Barman, and I come to you from Durham, North Carolina. Happy anniversary to all my fellow cooks in the kitchen. I can't believe that tomorrow will mark our first anniversary. It'll be 1 year. This is the last day of our first year as So Many Cooks in the Kitchen. All of us who wear this apron are Food for Life instructors. Food for Life is a nutrition education program of the Physicians Committee. We know a lot about healthy plant-based eating and nutrition. And we have this idea. This pandemic's been really bad, and I feel sorry for all of the ill effects it's had and still has around the world. But here's a little silver lining. A number of us had this idea a little over a year ago that we can't have our classes live, and we were moving our classes online. What if we cook kitchen to kitchen? And it's been a tremendous experience. Today, you're going to see a dozen of our cooks in the kitchen. We have about 30 of us, and we cook each month whenever we can. It's enabled me to renew existing friendships that people I already know, and I've made some really good new friends with other cooks in the kitchen whom I had never met before. So congratulations to all of us, the cooks in the kitchen, for a year. Let's hope there's many more shows ahead of us, and congratulations to all our viewers who've been watching for the last year. So I have a tasty, what better way to acknowledge our first anniversary than citrus. So I have a very nice, tasty smoothie. It's made with my favorite citrus. It's called Triple Cross Tangerine, and it's going to be the star of what I'm doing today. Triple Cross is this amazing citrus. I've never had better, and I just love citrus. There's many kinds of citrus I like. This is called a Pixie Tangerine, and if it weren't for Triple Cross, I'd be singing its praises. I love Pixie Tangerines, but I absolutely adore Triple Cross. It peels easily. I'll peel it in a minute. It is so juicy. You cut it and juice comes out. It separates easily. It's segmented as tangerines are. It tastes so sweet and has just the right amount of tart. So I decided for my recipe to celebrate that we'd be featuring citrus. Citrus is a great food. A lot of us are familiar with orange juice. I would strongly recommend, if you're drinking orange juice, first of all, to switch to fresh squeezed. It tastes so much better. But then, you know, from a nutrition point of view, juice isn't the best choice. So if you squeeze it, and admittedly, I actually do enjoy fresh squeezed orange juice in the morning. It's one of my bad habits. You are getting a lot of vitamin C, but you're leaving the fiber behind. So my compromise, because I really do like fresh squeezed orange juice, is I do squeeze it many mornings, but then I will use my fingers and pick up as much of the pulp as I can, and I'll eat it. But a better choice is the drink that I made to celebrate. And I took several whole Triple Cross tangerines. I blended it with some fresh mango and a banana, and that's it. And I put a little sparkly in it too, some carbonated water. And it's very tasty, and this is a whole food product, whereas orange juice, you're leaving the fiber behind. Citrus is a great food. We all know that it's a high source of vitamin C. And believe it or not, it's relatively low on the glycemic index. The glycemic index measures how quickly sugar goes into your blood system. Now, the sugars in fruit are natural fruit sugars. And the glycemic index of citrus, believe it or not, is the typical orange. The glycemic index is 45, whereas a white bagel, which isn't the best choice of food to start with, is 72. So it does get introduced to your blood system relatively slowly. It's a good source of potassium, and it helps with the uptake of other nutrients. So I do recommend eating instead of drinking citrus, and there's many places you can enjoy citrus. Certainly you can eat citrus out of hand, delicious. One thing I like to do is I'd like to introduce it to savory dishes. It's a really nice, refreshing contrast. You're used to eating maybe potatoes and onions, some greens. And what is this? This beautiful orange nugget. So you get this beautiful color contrast, and you get this beautiful sweetness. So it's a nice contrast. It's also great for deglazing. I cook with no added fat, no oil or anything like that. So if I'm sauteing something in the pan, just before serving, maybe I'm cooking some tofu or tempeh or some vegetables. Before serving, I might chop some citrus, put it in, and the acid in the citrus will help deglaze or clear up the pan. So that's quite nice. So today what I'm going to be making is I'm going to be using Triple Cross Tangerine. I'm going to be making a citrus fennel salad. This is one of our recipes, our Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine recipes. It used to be in our Kickstart Your Health class, and I've modified it a little bit. Again, all our recipes are available. We'll show the link. They're all available to you. And it uses a really nice ingredient called fennel. Fennel you can find relatively easily. It's so beautiful, and you can use all parts of it. You can use the fronds. This is great for decoration, a garnish. The stalks are kind of tough. They're good cooked down. They do really well in a stock or in a soup. And then the bulb is the tastiest part. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start, I'm also going to demonstrate the mezzaluna, which is a great knife for cutting herbs. So I'm going to start by taking the fennel, and the fennel is very nice to cut the bottom. I've already cut some of the bottom off. I'm going to cut more of the bottom off, like so. It has a texture kind of like celery, and it has a flavor kind of like licorice. So there's the bottom of my fennel. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to chop it into rectangles, thin rectangles, so a little smaller than bite size. And I have the dimensions I recommend all in the recipes. Okay, I'm going to put them in a bowl right here. So here comes my fennel, and I call for about a half cup of the fennel. So if you haven't cooked with fennel, it might bring back some nice childhood memories of anise candy, something like that. So here's my fennel. It's really easy to chop. So I'm just going to put this in here. Okay, so there's my fennel. And then the star of the show is my citrus. Look how huge this is. Triple Cross is grown in a farm. As far as I know, it's the only place it's grown. This farmer named Lyle, and I can't remember his last name, he hybridized this. I think he hybridized it. Maybe somebody else hybridized it with 3 other varieties of citrus. We're going to compost the skin. This is such an amazing citrus. Even the skin tastes good, and sometimes I'll take a bite of the skin. This is going in compost. Let me try. Just bite into it, and you get the beautiful citrus oils. Yum. So I'm going to see how easily the skin comes out. Because it's a tangerine, it's segmented, and you can see it just glistening. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to chop my tangerine. Now, you may not get Triple Cross. I recommend any firm tangerine. If you can't get tangerine, like these pixie tangerines, or maybe a mandarin, then you can use an orange, maybe a navel orange, or even a Valencia orange, really whatever kind of citrus, orange or tangerine or tangelo or tangor that you can get. So I'm going to put these segments in my bowl. Can you guys believe it's been a year? I bet some of you guys watching have been watching. I know some of you have watched every one of our shows, and a particular note of gratitude to you. And I know we're growing. We have viewers all over America and in Europe. We have viewers in India, in Pakistan, I think we have some viewers maybe in China and Japan. So we really appreciate all of you who watch us live or recorded. Look at the juice just glistening. This is really a special citrus. And I don't want to tempt you too much, because you might be saying, Dilip was showing us some citrus and it's unattainable. This nirvana is unattainable. So ask your local co-op or better grocery store. Tell them you know of some citrus called Triple Cross and see if they can get it. And if not, there's lots of other good citrus out there. One thing I like to do when I cook is I like to modify my recipes. So sometimes, if it calls for a tangerine, try a grapefruit. A grapefruit's a very different kind of taste sensation. It's still citrus, but it's kind of more a grown-up, serious kind of taste. Okay, so there's my tangerine. My recipe calls for 3 tangerines, but in the interest of time, I'm making a smaller batch. Looks good so far? And then one thing I like to do, one of my modifications is beet. So what I did is I got some fresh beets yesterday and I cooked them. All I did is I took the beetroot, I put it in my pressure cooker on a trivet so it was above the bottom, and I pressure cooked it. And this one I think I pressure cooked for 25 minutes because it's quite big. A smaller beetroot could cook in 10 or 12 minutes. And then I let it cool down, and then under cool running water, I just massaged it, and the skin on the outside came off. And before I put it in the pressure cooker, I did scrub it. And then the skin came off, and then I just chopped it. So I'm going to move this aside. And here you can see the beautiful beet. So I'm going to add some beet to my salad. It adds all its wonderful nutrients, and it adds an amazing color. We're not done yet, but how's that looking? Pretty cool. So there's some beet. And then I'm going to add some basil. So thanks to my wife for getting basil from outside. We only have 3 leaves. And I'm going to introduce to you, if you're not familiar, be careful. My wife, in her wisdom, suggested moving the candle, and luckily she did. This is to celebrate our anniversary. Let me put it here. So I'm going to chop the basil, and you can use a knife, but I'm going to use what's called a mezzaluna. Mezza means middle, and luna means moon. It works well when you have a whole bunch of herbs. Here I only have 3, so it won't work as well. So it's sticking because there's so few, but you get the idea. Okay, so you can use a mezzaluna. Mezzaluna is great when you have a bunch of herbs. So I'm going to throw the basil in. And because we're shy on basil, I'm going to get some thyme from the garden. Thyme is a fun herb. And what I do is I use my fingers and I kind of go in the reverse direction. This is kind of holding on. You can pick the leaves off if you need to. But generally, like that, you go in the reverse direction. And there you go. I wish we always run out of time. I have so many cool stories. My wife will remember that crazy Italian restaurant in Chapel Hill. And this restaurateur who gave me a pot of his time. And remember that, Sangeeta? Very interesting character. He made the best food, but he wasn't nice to his patrons. So there goes my thyme. So fresh herbs are great. Okay, and then I bought some flat parsley. You can get curly parsley. Curly parsley looks better in the dish, but this flat parsley also looks pretty good. I'm going to use my mezzaluna. Curly parsley is a little bit plainer in flavor, and once in a while it's bitter. So I definitely prefer the flat one. And hopefully Sangeeta's camera isn't showing you, but that citrus was so juicy that we have a pile of citrus juice evolving on my counter. Eeks. So we're almost done. It's a super simple recipe. We still need a little black pepper, and I recommend freshly ground black pepper. I'm going to call my lovely daughter to join us in a second. And then I'm going to use a flat, be careful with the candle, move the candle away. So I'm going to use a fleur de sel, which is the most expensive. It's called a finishing salt. You don't really want to put the salt and mix it into your dish. You want it on top. It has a higher moisture content, so it persists on your tongue longer and gives you a really nice flavor. Now, mind whatever your healthcare provider has told you. And if you're on a low salt diet or no salt diet, then skip this. This has so much flavor. If you can tolerate the salt adds a nice pungent contrast, and I love it. So I do recommend, this is a more expensive salt. This much salt was like $10, so it's very pricey. So it's a finishing salt. This one I like particularly well. It's a company from Portugal, and it's organic. It has organic citrus mixed in. So citrus on top of citrus. Can you see the beautiful citrus peels in it? Okay, so it's a more granular salt, and I'm going to kind of sprinkle it on top and call this done. Is that easy peasy or what? This particular company also has other finishing salts. They have this one, which has port wine in it. This is such a cool time of year because I couldn't believe my wife went to our local co-op where we get the citrus called Weaver Street Market, and they already have organic peaches. So we have late season citrus and we're getting summer fruits. Our next show actually is about summer soups and salads. So the peach is already out. So let's try this. So Anuragini, come join us. Bring your bowl. Tell us who you are and who are so many kids in the kitchen.
I'm Anu, and So Many Kids in the Kitchen is a group of a few kids, like with me and Miss Cody, who's going to go soon, her kids, and Miss Ella, her kids, and we all cook things. And next time, we're going to make summer foods. And our next show is on June 12th, which also happens to be my mom's birthday.
So in 3 weeks, in 2 weeks is our next show. So give it a sample. I'm going to show the audience the big bowl. So what a beautiful presentation. It was easy peasy. And, you know, in my recipe, I say if you want, you can add a little vinegar. It really doesn't need vinegar. It's loaded with flavor. What do you think, sweetie? Like it? Like it or love it? Good, good. I love this salad. Let me take a bite too. So happy anniversary. And can you get your glass?
It was funny.
Mmm.
You were taking your time.
Grab your glass.
Taking your time, stripping the time.
I was taking my time, stripping my time. So I knew let's toast to everybody.
I'm saying your time was ticking.
So fennel citrus salad, try it at home. It's easy. So let's congratulate all the cooks in the kitchen. And in a few weeks, we'll have a congratulations for all the kids in the kitchen. So congratulations.
This is citrus drink.
It's a citrus drink. It's triple cross tangerine, mango, and banana. So with that, congratulations, everybody. Thanks for watching our show. And we move on to Janen. Janen is going to be making a drink as well. She's going to be making, I think, a pina colada just for us. Take it away, Janen.
Hi, Dilip. What fun. I love citrus, and you've made a wonderful sounding salad. And I'm in celebration mode. I got the music going. I can't believe it's a year. Welcome everybody to my new kitchen in Abu Dhabi. Merhaba, as they say here. And when we were talking about celebrating our first anniversary, I was thinking of what can I do? And being new here and getting used to things, I thought I would do an easy but very joyful celebratory thing. And I decided to make a pina colada. And with summer around the corner, actually here in Abu Dhabi, it's pretty much summer every day. And we're lucky to be able to go to the beach near us. And there I've seen pina coladas being served, and I thought that's what I'm gonna do. So I have an easy take on a pina colada. I have some frozen pineapples, roughly about 3 cups, and about a cup of coconut milk, and an extra cup of pineapple juice just to adjust the consistency, and a little bit of lime juice, just about a tablespoon, to cut the sweetness if you don't like things too sweet. On the contrary, if you like things sweet, a little bit of agave syrup, and there you go. So my high-speed blender is a bit finicky, causes me trouble sometimes. So I start by putting a little bit of liquid at the bottom, and then I pile in my frozen pineapples, not all at one time, because the engine sort of starts heating up if there's too much stuff in it. So here we go. It's easy. You put them all in and start turning it on. And then, because of my temperamental machine, I will add my pineapples a little at a time, and everybody has a different machine, so do it as you wish. Meanwhile, since usually we talk about nutrients too, apart from being such a joyful drink, pineapples are full of vitamins and minerals and antioxidants, and they also have an enzyme that's really good for digestion. So apart from having a celebratory moment, you can also feel good that you're doing something good for your body with a wonderful plant-based drink. Oops, sorry, turn it on. We actually found out that one of the pulses don't work on my machine, so it's going back tomorrow. That's why I'm sort of pampering it tonight, hoping that it's going to make it through to the end of the night. And a little bit more of pineapple juice. And I'll add, of course, my coconut milk. Let's not forget it. It's a pina colada. The reason why I start with frozen pineapples is that it just makes it wonderfully cold and slushy, like a smoothie. And it's, for me, much more refreshing, and also makes it easier. You don't have to add ice at the end. Now and then some more. Almost there. All good. You have to wait for good things to happen. So we'll let it go. Oh, the lime juice. Yeah, you can get this. Okay, we're cooked. And I have to remember to thank the team at the Garden by Bayview at Beach Rotana, who have helped me do all of this. They've also lent me 2 hurricane glasses so that we can really play the part. So our juice is ready. Look at that pour. Don't you just feel the celebration? It's so festive, so yummy and delicious. And the good news is, leftovers you can freeze. Turn it. Hello, Brett. Of course, you have to add the pineapple. And it's a must. I was told that you have to have a maraschino cherry. And come, since my husband's been helping all this year, we celebrate together. Happy anniversary, everybody. And with this, I pass it on to Angelita in Greenville, South Carolina. Ma salam from Abu Dhabi. Bye, everyone. Happy anniversary.
Hey, thank you. Oh my gosh, that looked so delicious. I think I'm going to do that this evening. So what I am going to be making is an oh so crazy orzo salad. Now, if you're gluten intolerant, you can substitute farro with it. You can also even use chickpeas in place of the pasta. So what I've got is 3 cups of cooked whole wheat orzo, and the recipe is in the link. So I cooked this already because it takes just a few minutes to get that done. And I've got celery and sun-dried tomatoes, and then a mixture of nuts. And these I purchased raw, and I toasted them in a skillet, nonstick skillet on my stove. And as they were starting to toast, then I added a little bit of a chipotle seasoning to it just to give it a different flavor. I didn't use any oil. The recipe calls for pine nuts, but that's the beauty of cooking this way, is you can substitute if you run out. So I didn't have enough pine nuts, so I added sunflower seeds and pumpkin seeds to this. If you don't like nuts or you're allergic to them, you can completely omit them. You can add toasted chickpeas to this if you want to. So the sun-dried tomatoes I minced, and then I just rehydrated them. And then I put a little bit of balsamic vinegar in them when they were still hot, just so they would absorb that flavor. And so what you do is you just pour everything in there, excuse me, except for the nuts. Don't put the nuts in there. You're going to wait until the very end because you don't want them to get absorb all that balsamic vinegar. So here's my balsamic vinegar. I'm pouring that in there. Now, if you don't like balsamic vinegar, feel free to use a little bit of vegan mayo and thin that out with some lemon juice or some lime juice. You don't like that, you can also thin out some hummus with a little bit of water and use that. And also you can, feel free to play around with the different flavored balsamic vinegars. There's so many wonderful flavors out there. You can make this different variations on this. You can add a ginger dressing and add some diced up water chestnuts to it. You can add some guacamole to it. You like spice? You like some spice? Add a little bit of diced up jalapenos. And as you can see, working in any kitchen, you're going to make a mess. So you just clean that up. All right. So then, see how pretty that looks? Look at all those gorgeous colors. My favorite thing about this salad is you can serve it immediately while everything is, while the pasta is warm. You can serve it cold. You can serve it in little, the butter lettuce, the way they come out in the little cups. You can put that inside of there. If you don't like raw vegetables, roast them. Roast the vegetables with your favorite seasoning. You can steam them if you don't like them roasted. Feel free to just play around with this. This recipe is just to give you an idea of what you can mix together. But the beauty of this way of eating is that you make it your own. You put in there what your family will eat. You want shaved Brussels sprouts in there that you roasted with some balsamic vinegar. Put it in there. Asparagus, fresh zucchini, cucumber from your garden, fresh tomatoes. There's just so much that you can do with this. And then earlier, Dilip had mentioned those tangerines, the triple cross tangerines. Okay, so I tried that in this and then different variation of this, and I added cranberries to it and some toasted pecans and some segments of that, and it was just absolutely delicious. So like I said, just let your mind go wild with it. Have fun, include the kids. The kids love this kind of stuff. And then if the children are involved and they're helping prep, then they're more apt to eat it. You can pack it for lunch for them. You can take it to a baby shower, a family gathering, to a friend who maybe just had a baby or is sick. There's just so many ways to give this out as a gift, and it's wonderful for batch cooking, for meal prep. Just put it in individual servings and keep it in the fridge. It'll hold really well for about a week, although I don't think it's going to last you that long. Make sure you mix it really, really well. I don't cook with salt, and I don't use any oils. But if you feel that's something that you need to add in order to be able to eat it, then go right ahead. That's up to you. Please follow your doctor's restrictions. And then one thing I did to kind of bring out a little bit of sweetness to the balsamic vinegar, even though it's already sweet, is I added just a tablespoon of the balsamic vinegar glaze to it. So we kind of keep the same balsamic vinegar flavor, but it just adds another level of sweetness to it. And once you get ready to serve it, then you sprinkle on the nuts right on top of it, and it gives it that wonderful crunch. When you're going to batch cook this or meal prep, keep the nuts in another little container, and then they can add that to it right before they get ready to eat that. So this salad, again, is very easy to make. It's so versatile. You can eat it as a side item, or you can have it also like almost as a main dish, and then just have a baked sweet potato on the side and some steamed vegetables. And it's easy, right at the hand. You can take it on a picnic when you're traveling. Also, it's really good when you're doing road trips. But anyway, that's about it. I know my recipe was kind of quick, but that's how quick you can make a very healthy meal that's going to last you a while. And then you can play with it and do it many different variations of it as you'd like. So now we're going to pass it on to Susanna, who's going to be making a walnut sage cocktail bites with some dipping sauce. So I'm all excited to try those. So thank you so much. Happy anniversary to each and every one of you. I truly, truly have enjoyed being with you guys, and I can't believe it's been a year already. Take it away, Susanna.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Susanna Dickman here in Evansville, Indiana. A nice, beautiful, hot day, almost 90 degrees today. So I'm kind of glad I'm inside. Happy anniversary, everyone. I, too, can't believe that we've been doing this for a year. I'm just honored and grateful to have been a part of this group. So happy anniversary. Today, I'm going to make a celebratory dish that is perfect for holidays. My husband says it's perfect for any day. It has become really a favorite of ours, and we really like to make it. And they're called walnut sage bites. And I've made a couple of dipping sauces. So we're going to start out with an onion, and we're just going to saute our onion with a little bit of water. I do not use oil, as you will see. You know, in all the shows that we're cooking in, we typically will saute in vegetable broth or in water. And so I'm just going to, I want my onion to just get translucent. And I've put in a couple of tablespoons of water, and that should be enough for now. I'm going to keep an eye on it so it doesn't stick. While those are cooking, I'm going to start processing. We're going to just cook the onion and a couple other ingredients here, but the rest is going to be made in the food processor. So I have a half a cup of rolled oats, and the first thing I'm going to do is process them into a flour, because they are going to be what is going to help hold our bites together. So let me get this processed. Okay, you shake it up a little bit so it gets, we want it to be, it doesn't have to be really that fine, but just enough so that we're not getting a lot of the different Okay, that should be great. Now we're going to add our other ingredients. So I have walnuts, I have some baking powder, a little bit of salt, and a little bit of pepper. And the last ingredient is pumpkin. I love pumpkin. Obviously, pumpkin is in the fall, but I have canned pumpkin in my house all the time because I just really like it. And another thing that I use it for is my little dog. I have a little rescue dog named Toby. He's part Shih Tzu and Maltese. And every once in a while, he gets a little stomach ache. And literally, you can hear his stomach growling and making all these noises from clear in the, in another room. And my vet told me that pumpkin is really good to help soothe a dog's tummy. So I make sure that I have my canned pumpkins so that I am able to put a little bit, give him a little bit so that he can help get rid of his stomachache. Okay, so my onions are starting to get translucent. I'm going to add a couple more tablespoons of water. And then along to this, I am going to add some garlic. The recipe calls for 2 cloves of garlic. I love garlic, so I probably put 4 in. And then the last ingredient is fresh sage. Dilip talked about fresh herbs, and oh my goodness, they just bring a flavor that we really makes these balls really so good. So I am going to put that in, and I'm just going to let it heat up a little bit and let my garlic soften just a little. And then that's done. So now I'm going to add this to my food processor, so we can just combine it all together. So let me get that in there. There it goes. And we will process this. And then these are going to go in the oven at 375 for about 15 to 20 minutes. I always, check them after 10. You want to make sure that they're golden brown. They're so good. So let me move my oven there, my burner. And I'm going to put these here because you can see how good they look. Let's get this processed so I can show you how easy it is. We just want to make sure that it's well combined. And of course, I'm going to need to open it up and push it down a little bit because I want to make sure that my walnuts are well combined, that my onions and everything, we don't have too big of pieces. Okay, one more time. And then I'm going to show you how I form them, and then I'll talk about the dipping sauces. These are great on their own, but we love adding some sauces, and I'll talk about those. And of course, you'll have the recipes for those. All right, so that looks perfect. So I like when I am making these, I use one of my cookie scoops. So let me just make a couple. Sometimes I don't really, I don't mind if they're not complete circles. The bottom might be a little flat. You can see they're not sticky, so you can take them out and just kind of shape them as you want to. And let me make a couple more. And then, as I said, these are going to go in a 375 oven for 15 to 20 minutes. And you can make them as big or as small as you want. I usually make a double batch when I make these because everyone in my house loves them. So here you go. Those are the ones that need to be cooked. Let me scoot those over there. And I want to show you my finished product. So we've got this tray. I put some carrots and celery. And let me tell you just a minute about my dipping sauces. So the first one is a green chili aioli. My husband and I like heat. We like hot. He grew up in New Mexico, and a green chili was a staple in a lot of his recipes. So this is just a vegan mayo that I made, and you'll get the recipe just with some silken tofu. And then I just added some chopped green chili to it, so it's got a nice kick to it. The next one is a tahini. sauce. And again, I love tahini and I use it a lot in sauces. This one though, we just added a little bit of sriracha to it. And I love sriracha as something that kind of gives it the kick. So this is a great time to celebrate, a great recipe to have every day. It's just something that I hope you'll make and that you'll enjoy. And I just want to say again, happy anniversary to all my fellow Food for Life chefs. And again, this has been a great year. You know, it started out with the pandemic but doing this every month and connecting with you all and connecting with those of you who have been watching us has just brought a bright spot into what was a very long and at times difficult year. So thank you all for watching and for sticking with us. Next up is Suzanne, and she's in Michigan, and she is going to make some cauliflower bites. So I'm looking forward to those. Take it away, Suzanne.
Thank you so much, Susanna. And like you, this has been such a gift to all of us that we've had each other for this amazing experience throughout the year, sharing recipes, learning from one another. It's really amazing how we're all Food for Life instructors, but our backgrounds are so different. Some of us come from business, some from healthcare. So it's just been an amazing experience. So congratulations, everybody. And thank you so much for having me in the group. I'm just honored. So today I'm going to be making a buffalo cauliflower bite. And usually when people hear about buffalo sauce, they assume it's made with butter, because most buffalo sauces are a combination of some form of a hot sauce and a butter sauce. So what I've done is, instead of using butter, we are using tahini. And tahini is a great replacement, like Susanna just said as well. It's a great replacement for making sauces in place of oil in certain recipes. You can use it in place of some butters when you're baking cookies, or really it really goes with a lot of different recipes. And so it's a really good replacement. So when you're trying to think of one way to replace an oil, maybe in a sauce, tahini is really a great way to go. If you're not familiar with it, it's basically just ground sesame. So it's ground sesame seeds. So it contains omega-3s and more polyunsaturated fats than saturated fats, and it doesn't contain any trans fats. So it's really a great replacement. So today I'm going to be making a buffalo cauliflower. So one thing I like to do in preparation for my cauliflower, so a lot of times when you buy it, it has tiny little brown spots on it that, you know, just are unappealing, maybe a sign of some mold coming on. So you do want to go ahead and take those off. And I discovered that if I use my microplaner to do it, I don't really waste much of the cauliflower. So it's a great way to just sort of clean up. I don't know if you can see it on there, but it's just a great way to kind of clean up a little bit of the brown spots that you see, and to just freshen up a cauliflower, because it's silly to waste it from tiny little brown spots. When I chop my cauliflower to make these nice bite-sized pieces, I break it from the back, and so I slice into the back side of the cauliflower. I remove the stem, and most of the time you end up having to cut that out. You can really bang it on a hard surface, and that sometimes helps break it. But if you kind of examine your cauliflower and look at where your splits are, and then you cut from there, it's a much cleaner break. And then you can do the same thing again until you get the size pieces that you want. So you just make a slice and then a crack. Because I used to find that if you cut the cauliflower from the front, you're really wasting a lot of cauliflower. You're getting a lot of crumbs, and you're also kind of making these like straight edge pieces that aren't as natural as if you were to just kind of break the backside and then break it apart. So that's just one little tip when making cauliflower bites. Or really just anytime you're making any kind of cauliflower, it's a great way to break it from the back. So to make the batter, we're going to use oat flour, chickpea flour, and panko. So this is also a really easy recipe to make gluten-free, because gluten-free panko is available. And oat flours most of them are gluten-free unless there's a cross-contamination, and chickpea flour is gluten-free, again, unless it's packaged from a company that could have a cross-contamination. So in here, I've already measured out a half a cup of oat flour, a half a cup of chickpea flour, and a couple tablespoons of panko. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and mix in the seasonings. And I have smoked paprika, which also give it a really nice color that you could almost even not toss it afterwards in the sauce. And you'll see that when they're done. Lemon zest, nutritional yeast, onion powder, and garlic powder. And you just stir that all together. Just whisk that together gently. And then you're going to add a plant-based milk of your choice. I have flax milk. I tend to enjoy the flavor of it, the taste of it. Just depends on what your preference is. And lemon juice. And you're just going to quickly mix that together just till it's just combined. And then you're going to add in your cauliflower. And I'm excited for you to see the end result. And the nice thing about this recipe is that you can serve it on a tray with a variety of dipping sauces, or you can also just toss it in the one sauce. And there are so many amazing sauces out there. And if you don't have time to make a sauce, no stress. You can use a jar of barbecue sauce. You can use mustard sauces, any sort of dressings really that you have in the house. There are so many amazing sauces out there that some of them even don't even contain oil. So, and they're also low sodium, because it is one concern when you're making, when you're buying bottled products, is that they do contain a lot of sodium. Sometimes they can contain a lot of oils. So you do want to watch and read your ingredient list when you're choosing a sauce. But there are so many options out there, obviously depending where you live. If you live in a more rural area, it may be a little more difficult. But again, this sauce is also super easy to make. So you just kind of gently toss these, and then you're going to place them onto a cookie sheet and pop them into your oven. So it's just very simple. You can just kind of see how it's gently coated with the batter. And all you're going to do is place those onto the oven. I already have some here, but in the meantime, when those would be cooking, it's a perfect time to blend up your sauce. I'm going to use any blender will do. You can even just whisk it or use a hand blender. I have this little NutriBullet that is perfect size for just a little bit of sauce. So I already went ahead and I put my tahini and water into this little container. Tahini can be a little tricky to work with because sometimes it can settle. So you really need to shake it up, especially the first time you use it, and then you can put it into the refrigerator so it doesn't separate again. But it is still kind of a little sticky. You give an unevenness that some part of it is a little more oily than the settlement at the bottom. So you do kind of want to stir it up and get a good tape. Like when you're measuring out your tablespoons, you do want to be sure that it's kind of even, a little oily and a little of the paste. So, and you really want to have it blended as much as possible before you actually even dig into it. So I already went ahead and put it in here because it is a little messy for the camera. So in here I have the 3 tablespoons of tahini and 2 tablespoons of water. And I soaked these dates in some warm water just for a couple hours. And you can throw those in. You can cut them up ahead of time if you don't have a great blender. And some lemon juice, a tablespoon of maple syrup. And then in this recipe, I'm using harissa. So, but feel free to change that out. So harissa is a little bit more of a paste. If you want a little bit of a thinner recipe, you can use a hot sauce. Harissa can be very hot. So some brands sell it mild and hot. Some of them are just one. And this is the Trader Joe's harissa. It is spicy. I like spice. I use a teaspoon. That's actually kind of on the low side. You can go up and use a couple teaspoons, which I've done before as well, but you need to know your audience and make sure that they enjoy spice. So I'm just going to go ahead and add this. But again, you're you can use Frank's Red Hot, you can use a Louisiana hot sauce, you can use a Cholula. All of them really work really well. And then you can add salt to taste. Again, I don't use too much salt when I cook. I usually wait, see how it tastes, and then decide whether or not to add salt. So you're just gonna mix this up, and I'm just gonna stir it a little bit so the tahini was sitting there so it goes down to the bottom. We'll blend it. And I already have another one right here ready to go that I made earlier. And so what I'm gonna do now is I just took this other tray right out of the oven. I can actually pull it off nicely. So this is actually a crisper tray that I love to use. I purchased this one on Amazon. I know they're available at Costco. They're pretty much available at any place where you get cooking supplies. So I'm gonna go ahead and just place, looking for my tongue. I'm just gonna go ahead and place these right into the bowl. And then I'll gently toss the sauce right over them. But you can see, really because of the smoked paprika, when these came out of the oven, they really have a beautiful flavor, a beautiful color, so that it's really not necessary to mix them with the sauce ahead of time. They also look beautiful just served next to one another, but they really are so tasty when they're mixed together. So I'm just gonna go ahead and just do part of them for right now. And although this sauce, this is the full recipe, it doesn't look like very much. You really do not need too much of it to mix in to the buffalo bites. And you just kind of coat them very gently. The sauce, because tahini does tend to get a little bit firm at room temperature, it is a little bit better if you do make it early. Go ahead and heat it up a little bit in your microwave, maybe just defrost it a little, or pull it out a little bit early. But you can see that these make an absolutely delicious treat. And when they're served on a tray, and in place of a chicken bite that many people enjoy, and that people are always asking me, like, what do you eat when you go to a party? And how do you celebrate, without eating, with being vegan and being plant-based? And really the answer is really easy, because when you're creative, like I've learned from so many of my fellow Food for Life instructors in our So Many Cooks group, it's really fun, and it's a really great way to stay healthy and enjoy food. So I hope you choose to make this recipe, and I'm just excited to be here. Congratulations again, everybody. And I'm passing this over to Shobha, and she's going to make a veggie burger, which I'm really excited about because I love being outside and barbecuing. And so veggie burgers are one of my favorite summer foods. Thanks.
Hello, everybody. I'm Shobha Swami from Atlanta, Georgia, and it's so excited for the 1-year anniversary of all the cooks we've put together from PCRM Food for Life instructors. So today I'm going to make a hamburger that's very similar to the one you get at Trader Joe's. It's also called masala burger at Trader Joe's that you can find frozen, and my kids used to love it growing up. They would take it to school, they would cut it up and put it on their salads. And so I thought, why not teach everybody how to make this at home? You can make these ahead of time, but let's get started. As you can see, I have a plethora of vegetables, all different kinds. And the one that you should never forget is red beets. That will give you the feel for as close as we can get to a plant-based burger. So take a couple of teaspoons of this and mix and match. If your kids like peas more than carrots or green beans or anything, add more of that. So I have peas here, got done with beetroot. I have green cabbage here, and you can hide many vegetables that the kids would never know that you snuck in there for them. And then here's red cabbage as well. Here you go, just a couple of teaspoons. I'm going to show you how to make a couple of patties, and then you can make much more and double up on the recipe. This is green beans. So what I did was I took small pieces of all these vegetables and crushed them up in a small little food processor. Here's carrots. If kids like more carrots, add them, you know. And here's a potato that is mashed up. So add as much potato as you want for binding purposes and for bringing everything together. I do sneak in spinach as well. Every meal, try to see how many greens you can add. And greens are, are full of antioxidants, are really heart healthy. So don't forget about greens. And this is, use any kind of beans that you like. I've used kidney beans today because that's all I had in my pantry. But if you have garbanzo beans, black-eyed peas, black beans, pinto beans, or even refried beans, use any one of them. Make sure the refried beans are healthy and don't have many of those additives that normally they put in there. And then I do like to flavor mine with cilantro, but it's optional. Use any other fresh herbs or dried herbs as you like. Here's a little bit of cilantro. And we love jalapenos. So go ahead and add as much as you like. I have crushed jalapeno here. And we love spicy burger, so I'm going to add more. And since we're not going to be sharing it with anybody online, we can add as much as we want. So here's the spices, and I'm going to show you all these spices close up, and I'll talk about them as well. Let's start a little bit with pink Himalayan salt, as much salt as you like. Like Suzanne was mentioning, we can lightly salt it, and if people want more salt, they can always add it. Here's something called coriander powder, which is nothing but the seeds of cilantro powdered into a flavorful spice. So add probably a teaspoon of this for all of this. I have a little bit of turmeric. Add just a hint of turmeric. Then I have black pepper. Add a hint of that. There's garlic powder here. Add onion powder, garlic powder, any other flavors that you like, oregano. And don't miss the cumin though. This is one spice that will really give it a really, really nice flavor. So, and you cannot go wrong in adding too much. So add about a teaspoon, I would say, and bring all of this together. And sometimes as you crush these vegetables, they give out their own water. So you won't really need to add much water. But if you do, you can just sprinkle a few drops. Don't add too much. And if it gets too soppy, this mixture, have some oats, rolled oats ready to go. And you can just sprinkle some like this. That will absorb all the excess liquid in there. So you can make it into nice firm patties and bake it in the oven at 400 for about 10 minutes on one side. Then slowly, gently flip it over and 10 minutes on the other side. And it's all ready to go. So even this looks so colorful, and the red from the beets gives it a look that is very close to, what people are used to eating party foods and celebratory foods in the summertime. Even for picnics, this is a great option. So here it's all come together. I'll just take a little bit, make a ball out of it. Use an ice cream scoop, use a measuring cup, as much as you want, and have the kids roll these burgers for themselves. They will love doing this. So make a ball and give it to them, and all they have to do is flatten it and get it ready. Tiny, teeny burgers. These are like mini burgers, and you get the the flow of how to do this. I have a baking tray right here ready. All you have to do is flip it over like this and bake it in the oven, and you're good to go. Like I said, 400 degrees, 10 minutes on one side and 10 minutes for another. So go on like this. Now we'll put all this aside and put it in the oven. Here's my handy dandy air fryer. You don't need an air fryer for this. But let me show you the finished product. This is what it looks like. Oops. This is what it looks like. And then dress it up. Have the kids dress it up with anything that they like, all the condiments that they like. And make sure you have some greens. In addition to lettuce, I have these big leaves of spinach, so you can hide them. And you know, it makes a delicious picnic food, celebratory food. I made 4 of these in advance. You can see how wonderful they've turned out, and then the color just resembles a burger. So enjoy with ketchup, with the hot sauce. I have made here a cilantro sauce, similar to what Suzanne was making out there, but this is just crushed cilantro, lime, and salt, and that's all it is. So you can use this as a salsa to top it off, and this is what we like at home. So enjoy these burgers, and happy anniversary to each of us. And on to Mark. And let's see what Mark has to offer today. Wow, Mark, you're looking good. Over to you.
Hey, hi everybody. How are you? It's Mark Cervenek from just south of Chicago. It is almost 90 degrees, and I decided to do a little barbecue. And what a great way to celebrate the anniversary of this show and this wonderful group of people. So one of the things I always tell my students is we want foods that approximate the taste and the textures of those foods that we are familiar with when we were non-vegans or non-whole food plant-based, especially as we're transitioning. And I've actually got a couple classes going right now with brand new vegans, and this is so important for those of us that are brand new vegans. So today I'm making ribs. So how the heck do you make ribs? Well, this is what the ribs look like. So this is seitan. It's a vital wheat gluten, and I'm going to show you how to make this this little setup here through a little bit of cooking magic. But first of all, what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw this on my old Weber kettle back here and fire this up a little bit. So I've got some coals on the fire. I've actually already cooked one of my dishes, and I know how to, if I could remember how to have this little hood up there to cover up. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to throw these right on the grill. I'm putting it right over the top of my coals, and I'm going to get some beautiful vegan barbecue sauce. So I just bought this in the store. Just make sure it doesn't have any high fructose corn syrup. It's vegan. This is organic. I got this at our friends at Costco. So I just love Costco for a lot of different reasons, and one of them is they have more and more vegan food products, just like a lot of our grocers do today. So I'm just going to slather the heck out of that and just lay that up on there really good. The more barbecue sauce, the better. And just going to throw that up on there. So now, that didn't sound really good. Put that on there. So now I'm going to show you how to make these guys. So what I have in here is vital wheat gluten. There's a cup of vital wheat gluten. There's 2 tablespoons of nutritional yeast. There's a tablespoon of smoked paprika. It's kind of a popular thing in us vegan cooks. There are 2 teaspoons of onion powder. There's a teaspoon of garlic powder. There's a big grind of pepper in this as well. So we're just going to mix that all up. You want to make sure that's all mixed really well. And now we're going to add the wet ingredients. The wet ingredients are really pretty simple. There's some little bit of vegetable broth in there. I use low sodium vegetable broth, or maybe even your own vegetable broth. There's a teaspoon of liquid smoke, a teaspoon of liquid aminos. The recipe calls for soy sauce, but I like liquid aminos, a little bit less sodium, a little bit deeper flavor, a little bit more of an umami, which is that kind of meaty flavor. And then the secret ingredient is 2 tablespoons of organic peanut butter. It just adds just an unbelievable flavor to it. And all we're going to do, guys, is pour that right in there, just like that. And we're going to use our hands. I tell people you don't need a lot of fancy utensils when you're vegan cook. I frequently have people that say, well, what do I need? What kind of equipment do I need to buy? And some of my fellow chefs and I do too. I've got a high-speed blender, Vitamix, a Instapot's really nice, but just your basic utensils, and then your 4 fingers and our opposable thumb works really good too. So I'm just gonna knead this, just like you're kneading dough, and all I'm doing is just doing that right in my hands like that. And what we want to do now is put this in a dish, and I've got this it's about a 6x8 dish, and I want to make that really flat and kind of like the size, if you will, of a sheet of ribs, and just flatten that out like that. Just flatten it out, flatten it out, flatten it out until it's probably about a 1/2 inch thick. And then we're going to score this so that it's like ribs, right? We're going to score it like ribs with a knife, and then bake it in the oven 350 for about 20 minutes. And that makes it nice and firm, if you will, and cooks it up really, really nice. And now what I'm going to do, I'm going to go over to my ribs here. And oh man, these guys are cooking up really, really nice. I'm just going to flip them over a little bit here and throw some more sauce on there. I have my backside really charred there, backside of my ribs, if you will, really charred there. And away we go. I'm just going to leave those on for 30 seconds or so. I'm going to plate some up. Oh my gosh, these guys are looking so good. You can leave them on a little longer if you'd like. And I mean, don't they just look phenomenal? They tear apart really, really nice. The other part of my recipe that I want to share with everybody is a recipe I got from my dear mother-in-law, who's been gone about 4 years now. She was my buddy, and one of the many reasons that I'm a vegan today and a Food for Life cook is because of her, and having to help them out of this world into the next with all their medical issues. I really don't wish that on anybody, and I really want to impart good health and good eating and to prevent chronic illness as best as we can. So this little dish was something that she introduced me to back 40 plus years ago. I've known my wife since high school. Actually started dating in college, but it is basically just this little packet. Look what's in here, guys. It's this little packet of onions and potatoes, and I mean, doesn't that just look phenomenal? So all you do is I put a little bit of broth in here, slice my potatoes up, slice my onions up, put some Italian seasoning on there, and then put it on the grill about a half hour. I put it on the grill about the time Bill got done talking today, and they were done about 10 minutes ago. So about 40 minutes, half hour, something like that. I'm gonna put some of those on my plate here, and then there's so I just want to give you a little look at this. And then there's the secret ingredients to the potatoes, and I'd like to add this to our power plate someday, including in addition to our legumes, our fruits, vegetables, and grains, is the ever-present ketchup, right? Ketchup is just a beautiful thing to add to anything. I sometimes have been accused of eating ketchup with my ketchup, so just a little bit of ketchup on your potatoes and your ribs, and isn't that just a wonderful celebratory barbecue for just a great group of people? And congratulations, happy anniversary. Here's to the start of summer. Bless you all. And now on to my friend Carolyn in Montgomery, Alabama. Take it away, Carolyn.
Hi, thanks, Mark. Happy anniversary, happy anniversary, happy anniversary. So many cooks in the kitchen. This doesn't make noise. It's supposed to make noise. Anyway, all right. So I know it's been quite a year, a hard year, a very difficult year in a lot of ways, but it's also been a really great year to be able to get to meet so many of my fellow Food for Life instructors, even virtually. That's been great. And what summer celebration is complete without deviled potatoes? Deviled potatoes, you say? What about deviled eggs? No, no, no. We're not doing deviled eggs. We're doing deviled potatoes. So we are going to start with about 1.5 pounds of potatoes that are
the size of roughly an egg, I guess you could say. And then we have about 1.5 pounds of them. I'll set those aside. And we're going to take our potatoes and cut them in half from top to bottom, or if you will, North Pole to South Pole of the potato. Slice that in half. And then we're going to take all of those potatoes, do the same thing, toss them with a little bit of vegetable broth to moisten them, sprinkle with salt and pepper. And then lay them all out flat on a baking sheet like this, which I have already baked all of these. And then while they're in the oven baking, we're going to make part of our sauce. So starting with cashews, which you can either soak raw cashews overnight. You could boil them for 10 minutes, which is what I usually do because I tend to forget to soak them the night before, but you could just boil them for about 10 minutes. If you have a high-speed blender like a Vitamix or a Blendtec, you actually can skip that step. But we have about 1/2 cup of cashews soaked overnight and then drained. And to that, we're adding some low sodium vegetable broth, 3/4 a cup. Remember, the recipes are all linked on our Facebook page as well. And then the thing that's going to give us that kind of yellowy egg color that we're used to with deviled eggs is some turmeric. And remember, turmeric, just a 1/2 teaspoon, is wonderful in here because it is very high in antioxidants and it contains that compound curcumin that is just so fabulous for us. And we do want to have a little pepper, so we're going to add pepper to this in a little bit. Pepper helps you absorb the curcumin a little better. All right, so I have all of that in the blender while the potatoes are baking. We'll just blend that up into a nice sauce. All right, you might need to scrape it down a couple times because you don't really want little chunks of cashew still in it. Now, if you are allergic to tree nuts or you want to make this a little bit lower in fat, you could use white beans, about the same amount, 1/2 cup of maybe cannellini beans. You could also try maybe using sunflower seeds as well, just to substitute for tree nuts if you're allergic to tree nuts. I've never tried it with cannellini beans, so I can't totally vouch for it, but you are going to be putting this mixture in the refrigerator before you fill the potatoes, so it will thicken up a little bit, and it's the potato really that thickens it mostly when it's cold. Okay, so the sauce part is made, and then once your potatoes come out of the oven, but they're still warm, you still want them a little bit warm, we're going to take you can use a melon baller. So I have a melon baller. So one of these little old-fashioned doohickeys. I have found it easier to use a grapefruit spoon because it's serrated on the edge, and you're just going to take it and make a little circle in the middle and take that inside out. But you don't want to take all of the insides out because you need some bit of the potato to help hold the whole thing together. So if you take it all the way down to the skin, it's just going to fall apart. So you need to leave about 1/4 inch of potato still in the shell. Okay, so then it will look like this. It's a nice little hollow potato shell. And I have one more I can do. So just scoop out the middle. And then because they're still warm, we can mash them more easily. So you could use a potato masher, you could use a pastry blender, you could use a regular fork. Okay, so I used my potato masher, like this, one of these old-fashioned potato mashers. You could also use a fork just to mash up all of the potato until it's nice and smooth. And then we're adding this delicious sauce to the potatoes.
we go. And I'll just use my fork to stir it all up. Okay, so far what we have in here is the mashed potatoes, and we have vegetable broth blended with cashews and turmeric. So you see how nice and yellow that looks, kind of mimicking that egg yolk look that you would find in deviled eggs. Now, to give it an egg flavor, we are adding Kala Namak, or Indian black salt. So, and it is not actually black when you look at it, it's kind of pink, really. Usually when using Kala Namak or Indian black salt, you want to use sparing amounts of it because it has kind of a high sulfuric content. It really actually smells like eggs, it tastes like eggs, but there's no eggs to it, it's just salt. So in this case, because we're actually trying to mimic eggs, we're going to add somewhere between 3/4 teaspoon and a whole teaspoon of Kala Namak because we want it to taste like eggs. And then 2 teaspoons of fresh squeezed lemon juice. And remember, we need that pepper, that black pepper, to help us absorb the curcumin in the turmeric. So give it a couple of good grinds of black pepper. And then we'll mix all of that up. Ooh, it smells like eggs. Oh my goodness, does this ever smell like eggs? Okay. It's nice and smooth. You want to get it as smooth as you can. And then there's a couple of different ways you can do this, but we're going to take those hollowed out little potatoes and then take the filling. You could use a spoon and scoop the filling into it if you want to, like that, and just mound it up in there. You're going to have a lot of filling, so it's going to surprise you how much more. You might have some extra at the end. It tastes really good though. Spread it on some toast for breakfast. It's delicious. All right, so you're going to mound it up in there, or you can do what I've done here and take a pastry bag, scoop all of that filling into a pastry bag, roll it up nice and tight, and then you'll want one of the wider tips on it. So nice and big hole on the bottom, because this comes out, sometimes it has little chunks of potato in it. So, and that's fine. It tastes absolutely delicious, even with little chunks of potato in it, but you do want the wider tip on it. And then you'll take one of these empty potato pieces right here and just squirt some of the filling into it in a real decorative way. So if you've ever been to a party where they were serving deviled eggs, you know, people put in these cute little bags like this and squirt it out so it has a decorative finish to it. And then, there we go. That's a little messy, but sure tastes good though. Okay, so I have this adorable little antique cut glass deviled potato tray. And it is not a deviled egg tray. I was wearing a crown earlier, so I hereby decree this is a deviled potato tray, not a deviled egg tray. And then we are going to add to that some sweet paprika, just sprinkle a little on top. Give it a nice festive color. And then on top of that, we're going to add, you could use dried dillweed if you want to, if you don't have any fresh, or you could use some fresh dillweed and just pull off a few of the leaves, sprinkle them on top. It's so pretty and it tastes really good on here. So if you grew up in a household where maybe your grandma made deviled eggs and put pickle relish in them, you could try that too by adding maybe a little bit of teaspoon or two of pickle relish into this mix if you want to, into the filling. It's really good just like this without it. And then having the dill on top gives it kind of that pickle relish flavor. But absolutely beautiful. And I have taken this to parties before where there were a lot of people who ate the standard American diet, the SAD diet, and they love these. I brought this to a party one time where there was a tray of deviled eggs and a tray, my tray of deviled potatoes, and the deviled potatoes were gone, like before the deviled eggs were. So they're really, really good. And they taste very much like what you might be used to if you remember deviled eggs and you miss deviled eggs. Well, try some deviled potatoes and just fabulous. And I know my husband's standing right here wanting to try one, so we'll let him have one. There you go. So if you have any questions at all about any of things I did right here, just add your questions in the chat at the end and we'll get to that. So happy anniversary to all my fellow So Many Cooks in the Kitchen. And now I'm going to send you over to Cody Stubbe. I'm the last savory dish and we're going to start our dessert portion. I'm really excited about that. Cody's making brownies. So hey, Cody, take it away.
Hey, Carolyn. Oh my goodness, that looked delicious that you made. I'm going to adjust my camera here just a little bit. I can't wait to make your deviled potatoes and take them to family events when we can start doing that. So welcome to my home in Omaha, Nebraska. I'm Cody Stubbe, and today I'm going to make some black bean brownies. And so this is a healthy version of black bean brownies. So I actually took a recipe from the Minimalist Baker and actually tweaked it. So I got rid of the refined sugar and I replaced that with date sugar. I got rid of the oil and I replaced that with applesauce. So those are some really good substitutions that you can do. So let me go through each step here with you real quickly. So for the black bean brownies, of course, you're going to need some black beans. We have cocoa powder, baking powder, a little bit of salt, a little bit of vanilla flavoring, maple syrup, like I said, applesauce. And then I'm going to show you how to make a flax egg. And then for the extra features of this brownie, we're going to throw in a little bit of peanut butter and a little bit of vegan chocolate chips on top. So first of all, I'm going to start with, it's called 2 batches of flax egg. So for each batch of a flax egg, it's 1 tablespoon of ground flax meal and 2.5 tablespoons of water. I usually do warm water because I feel like it kind of sets up a little bit quicker. And if you don't have flax meal and you just have flax seeds, all you need to do is take some of the flax seeds and put them in a coffee grinder, and then you have your flax meal. So that's usually what we do, and then I just kind of save the extra for later. It works real nice. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to add in my 2 batches of flax eggs. So that would be a total of 5 tablespoons of water, and then it's going to be a total of 2 tablespoons of flaxseed meal. I'm going to put that in my food processor here, and I'm going to turn that on. Okay, so it just needed to mix up. It's going to set here for just a couple minutes while I go through a couple things with you. Now, to make this a healthier version of the brownies, like I said, I wanted to get rid of that refined sugar. In order to do so, I actually substituted that with what's called date sugar. And date sugar is not really a sugar. It's basically like dehydrated dates that they grind up. So one thing I did find out kind of the hard way is that you do need to kind of sift your date sugar, or you may get a pit that got into the grinder at the factory. And luckily I didn't chip my tooth, but boy, I could sure feel it in there. So we have since decided to sift our date sugar. And it works nice as a sugar replacement, but just don't forget that step. So you don't want anybody chipping any teeth. So it's just 1/4 a cup of date sugar. And it's really simple, just to kind of go like this and just tap it against your hand. And then all the extra pieces in here that you see, I'm just going to toss because those are probably pieces of pits. Okay, so I'm going to start adding in my other ingredients. And usually I do all my wet stuff first. So I got my applesauce, or my oil replacer. Then I got my maple syrup here. And that's just 1/4 a cup. I got my 1.5 teaspoons of vanilla extract. Got my 1/4 a teaspoon of salt. Oh, kind of stuck in there. All right, my baking powder. All right, I'm actually going to mix those up here real quick, and then I'm going to put in my drier ingredients. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and put in my beans. So it's 1 can of unsalted or low sodium or no sodium black beans, and they've been rinsed and drained. And then I have 3/4 a cup of pure cocoa powder. Oops, I'm making a mess here. All right, I'm gonna turn it on. You want it well mixed. Oh, I forgot my date sugar. There we go. I think I got everything else. All right. Okay, then you want to kind of mix it down there and then do one more round of mixing it up. You want it nice and smooth. You don't want it real runny. These are going to be very fudgy brownies, but you don't want it runny. All right, that looks good. So I'm going to pour it in my pan here. Now you can either line this with parchment paper, or you can do a very light spray of like a vegetable oil, and I usually just kind of smear it around just so it's a very thin coat. And then I'm going to take my batter and I'm going to dump it in here. My oven has been preheated at 350, and I'm going to bake this for about 30 minutes. Now usually with brownies and cakes, you know, you want to take a toothpick and poke it and see if it comes out clean. Well, with these brownies, they're fudgy brownies, so they're not ever probably going to come out clean, especially because I'm going to be adding in some chocolate chips on top and some peanut butter here. So I'm going to show you how I'm going to do that. Now, if you guys have kids, this is the best part because they can lick the batter. There's no eggs. There's nothing that they have to worry about. So you can, you know, take the blade out, of course, and then let them have at it. And they usually really enjoy doing that. They kind of pre-wash my dishes that way when it comes to the sweet stuff. So then you can just take it. I got another nice spatula here. It just gives a nice little layer. All right, there we go. So I'm gonna do my peanut butter layer. My favorite peanut butter is just to make it yourself. So all I do is take my food processor and I just get plain peanuts, dump them in and turn it on, and it makes the best peanut butter ever. So I'm just gonna put a little bit here. It's not gonna be as pretty as I normally do it. But usually you can kind of make these like little strips of peanut butter, like 2 or 3. And the girls love peanut butter. Nothing's better than chocolate and peanut butter combination, right? But then you can take your toothpick, and I'm just gonna go like this and just kind of swirl it in here. And you can do that a few times if you want. I should have done one more layer of peanut butter towards the end. But this is also going to kind of melt down there, and it's going to be really good. Okay, then I got my vegan chocolate chips, and I'm just going to sprinkle these on top. If you'd rather have them in your batter, you can totally do that. It doesn't matter. This is just kind of what we prefer. So this is what it looks like before I put it in. And like I said, it's going to go at 350 for 30 minutes. And then I cut myself a piece here. I had to have one all ready. So here's the one that's all completed. And as you can see how the peanut butter melted in there. And you can see the chocolate chips on top. So this is going to be really good. And I got a glass of wine. So what goes better with wine than some chocolate? So congrats to you guys. Happy anniversary. And I'm going to send it on over to Jen. And she's in Shreveport, Louisiana. Hi, Jen.
Hi, Cody. That looks so good. And I am excited because I'm in the middle of the chocolate segment. It's great. So I'm Jen, and I'm in Shreveport, Louisiana. Welcome to my kitchen, and we are celebrating today. So when I celebrate, I like to do something a little decadent because I don't normally do something decadent in my diet, and that is to make a chocolate cheesecake. So I have this recipe. It was inspired by Nikki with the, oh gosh, I forgot the name, of eatingvibrantly.com. So Nikki made hers nut-free. So if you want a nut-free raw cheesecake, go on over to eatingvibrantly.com and check out her recipe. My recipe is a little variation on that, but it's still good. And it's so easy. So when we're preparing for a celebration, I like to do things ahead. And this is something you do ahead, and it's ready. And it takes like 5 minutes to put together. As you're going to see, we're going to put it all together right now. So let's get started. First, I'm going to do it all in my Vitamix. I have the Vitamix with the big bottom jar on here. It works best. You can also use a food processor for part of this, but you will need a blender for the filling part. So we're going to start with the crust, and I'm going to chop it in my food processor. I try to do things with as little dishes and cleanup as possible. So often what I'll do is I'll weigh my ingredients and have the weights written down. And so I'll put my food processor or my blender on the scale, and then I can just add things right out of the packaging. But for today's purposes, I pre-measured just to make it faster for you to see. So we will have a little bit of cleanup afterwards, but not bad. All goes in the dishwasher. Anyway, I'm going to start with almonds. This is 1 3/4 cups of almond. And I have the non-blanched almonds, the almonds with the skin on. A lot of the antioxidants are concentrated in that skin of the almond, so I want to keep those on there. So this adds a little protein to the diet, about 6 grams of protein in a cup of almonds. So that's great to know. Vitamin E, manganese, magnesium, all that. So nuts are a little higher fat item. This is a high fat dessert. We're not adding oils to it per se, but we are adding fat, and it's a treat. We're celebrating, and we need to treat it as a treat, not eat it every day. Just bring it out when you have special occasions. All right, so 1 3/4 cups of almonds goes in here. I'm doing a 1/4 cup of shredded coconut. That'll add some sweetness. This is the crust, remember, so it doesn't need to be super sweet. I'm adding some cocoa powder. Chocolate, chocolate, chocolate. We need to have as much chocolate as we can. And this is actually raw cacao powder, which is a higher antioxidant level. It is not processed and not heated through. I'm going to add some dates. This will help help make your crust stick together without adding any fat to it. And I have pitted these dates, and I also wanted to show you, sometimes they have the little connector where it was connected to the vine. You want to make sure you pull those off too. They're not pleasant. So I have about 8 dates here, all pitted, going right in. And then because we're having a celebration and a little bit of party, I'm adding a little bit of Kahlua to this. It's about a tablespoon of Kahlua. You don't have to add the Kahlua. That's not necessary. You can add a little water if your dough isn't sticking together. You can add more dates too. That'll help it stick together. That's it for the crust. Now I'm going to pulse it on a very low speed. This is the Vitamix that has the attachment. If you don't or the speed level. If you don't have a Vitamix or a blender that has the different speeds, I would recommend using your food processor and pulsing it just so you can keep a better control. You don't want everything in here pureed. You just want it finely chopped. So I'm going to pulse it a couple times. It's going to be loud, so just be ready. Here we go. And always with the blenders and the food processors, you need to get in there and scrape down the sides. I'm going to turn the speed up a little bit and let it run a little more since it's already started chopping and breaking down those nuts. And you can see on the sides here, they're starting to break down, much smaller than the original capacity, but there's still some large ones in there. So I'm going to scrape it down again and hopefully one more time, and then we'll have our crust ready to put in the pan. Okay, one more. It is almost there. I just have a couple stubborn nuts in there. Hard nut to crack, huh? Sorry, that was bad. Okay, to see if your crust is ready to go in the pan, you'll want to get a little bit of the batter, or whoops, I see a solid almond in there. Needs another little spin. But you take some between two fingers and pinch it. And if it stays together, like that did, makes a solid, then it's pretty much ready to go in the pan. But I'm going to go ahead and pulse it one more time because I did see a whole almond in there. I think we got it this time. Okay. So now we're just going to mix it together. There's a little bit of date stuck on the sides and the bottom. I want that all mixed together. Gosh darn, 2 more almonds in there. I had my almonds in the, I stored them in the refrigerator, and they were a little cold, so they're having trouble breaking down. So you should have all your ingredients at room temperature before you start. One more time. Okay, we're good to go now. So what I have here is a cheesecake pan. This is an 8-inch cheesecake pan. You can use a cheesecake pan if you have them. If you don't have one, you can use any dish that has straight sides. And I have lined this with plastic, and I'll explain why in a little bit why I did that. But I highly recommend lining it with plastic. And I'm going to pour about half of this into the bottom of the pan. Now it is a little sticky because of the dates and the Kahlua in there. So we're going to press it in to the bottom of the pan, but it's going to stick to my fingers really bad. So I use parchment paper. It doesn't tend to stick to the parchment. A little more. So you want your bottom layer to be about 1/8 of an inch thick, or as thick as you like it, really. If you like the crust, you can make the bottom a little thicker, but you will need to save some for the side. So I'm pressing this down in my pan. And I like to do the bottom first. Get that all solid and up into the corners. You can see it's all solid into the edges and flat against the edges. And now I'm going to do the sides, which I'm going to pour more in. Now the bottom is all solid, so I know what the bottom part is, and I'm going to just press it on the sides. And the best way I do that, I like to lay it on its side a little bit, and then just push it to the edge. And try to make sure you're not building too much up in the corners on the bottom. We often end up with a really thick part on the corner where the bottom meets the sides. And so I try to make sure that gets tucked in really well. Put the rest in here. This mix, the filling mix, will fill it all the way to the top. So I'm going to do the crust, the side of the crust, all the way to the top. Oh, I found another almond hiding out in the bottom. Okay, so I'm getting in there and I'm just going to push it up to the edges. And it's okay if it's a little crumbly, as long as it sticks up in there. When you put the filling in, it will stick to the edges and hold it all together. So I'm making sure that the joint where the bottom meets the side is not super thick. I'm gonna make it almost square or round, I guess. We're in a round pan. While I'm doing this, I will explain why I do the plastic wrap in here. Often, one big reason is often I will make this for a friend and send it over as a gift when they're having a celebration. And often when I send over the bottom of my cheesecake pan, there have been many times I have never gotten it back. So I end up with a lot of sides, but no bottom, and I can't use my cheesecake pans without the bottom, which is why I only have one cheesecake pan now, because my other one got lost. So if you put the plastic wrap in there, you are able to lift it out of the bottom part of your pan and put that to the side, and then get your, you'll have a full cheesecake pan. So anyway, here's what it looks like, all filled. And if you can see the crust, you can see the almond bits in there. It's wonderful. And it's very pretty when it comes out on the other side. So now onto the filling. And I'm going to use the same container. I'm just going to scrape out some of this crumbs that are left, put it into a bowl. I've got my brush here. And if there's a little bit left in there, it's okay, because we are going to puree the filling, and you're just going to have some nuts. And really what's left in there is a little bit of date, a little bit of cocoa, and all of that is in the filling already. So there's a little bit of almond, but when it purees up, you won't know. You won't notice it. All right, let's get on to the filling part. All right, so to start off, we have the highest calorie part of this dish is the cacao butter. So this is made from the cocoa bean. After they pull the chocolate, this is what is left, is the cacao butter. They pull the cocoa butter, so you get the cacao powder out, and you're left with, this is the fat, unfortunately, of the cocoa bean. So we're going to put this in here. And the recipe says that you want it shredded or finely chopped. So I'm just putting it in there in the chunks that it comes in the bag, and I'm going to pulse it just to break it down a little bit. And that'll help it mix later. It doesn't have to be fully broken down because we are pureeing. See, I still have a couple big chunks in here. It's okay. So, so that's the cacao butter, and this is the cacao powder that they've taken out. They took it out, so we're adding it back in. So as a substitute, the cacao butter is a little bit expensive. So if you want to cut some costs on this, you can actually use vegan dark chocolate chips in place, and use it by the weight. It's about 168 grams of cacao powder, and I have done it with the chocolate chips before to save a little money and time, and I couldn't find the cacao powder. So the cocoa powder is in there now, half a cup. Next, we are adding some maple syrup. This is to sweeten it up. I have a quarter cup here. You can add as much or as little of that as you want. You don't want to go too much liquid for this dish, since we're not baking it. We'll make the batter thin, and we'll have trouble staying together once it's cold. We are adding some more fat to this, but it's coconut milk. And I was actually able now to find this. It's called simple coconut milk. It doesn't have any additives to it. Often to coconut milk, they will add xanthan gum or gar or some kind of a stabilizer in there. So this is simple, just pure coconut milk. We are adding some vanilla bean powder and a pinch of salt. If you can't find vanilla bean powder, you can use a little bit of liquid vanilla, or take vanilla bean. You can find those in the spice section and scrape out the seeds and the inside and the really yummy part. And then what I like to do is just take what's left and put it in the sugar. If you use sugar, and it'll make like a vanilla flavored sugar. Okay, I'm adding a little bit of cashew in here. This just helps add some creaminess to this dish, as well as some thickening to the dish. And some more dates. I have 2 dates here that are pitted, and the stems are removed. And that is it. So now all we're going to do is pulse this until everything is finely mixed. And then we're going to blend it to a nice puree. Okay, I'm going to stop and scrape down the sides. You can see the cocoa butter is down there. I want all of that to mix in. It's sticking to the side a little bit. Or mix in as much as you can get it to mix in. And I'm feeling it while I'm stirring. It's a little chunky in there. I want to get all the nut pieces and the cocoa pieces mixed in well. Pulse it a little more. Okay, we are ready to start really blending it now. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to blend it to get it pureed. I'm going to stop it once in a while and scrape down the sides because we do have, you know, the nuts and the chunks kind of go up on the sides, and cheesecakes are supposed to be smooth, right? And then what I'm going to do is blend it, and I'm going to have my hands on the container once I get to the full blend, once everything is fully mixed in. And when it starts to feel warm, the slightest bit of warmth, because all that friction in there will start heating up your batter, then I'm going to stop and pour it in the cheesecake mold. So here we go. You ready for some noise? I'm going to start low. One more wipe down, and then we're going to go for the full blend. I don't know if you can see the color. I'm going to hold that up. There's a little bit of white speck in there still, a little bit of nut on the side, which we're never going to be able to get all the nuts down off the side, but as much as we can. So that's what we've got right now. And you'll see the difference when it's fully blended. It only takes, you know, a minute to get the rest. And I'm going to turn the speed up too once we get started. I always start on low. Yeah, it's thickening up nicely, which means the nuts are breaking down and the fat has broken down, the cocoa fat. We're going to do one more little mix and be ready to fill. Why I'm feeling for the heat is because we want to try to keep this as raw as possible. When you heat up the ingredients, some of the nutrients get lost. But here we've got a nice creamy dish. I'm going to pour it into the crust, and we're going to have some extra, which I often like to make some little chocolate nuggets with that. So I'm going to pour that right in there. We're going to fill it right to the top. There we go. And I'm just going to let it settle itself in there. Put this over here. So what I'm going to do is put this in the refrigerator and let it sit for about 4 hours uncovered. If you cover it, you end up getting some water droplets in there. So it's going to go right in the fridge and sit for 4 hours, and then it's ready. And I'll show you what I have. You can make this days ahead. It actually freezes beautifully as well. So here we go. And this is another reason I use the plastic, because I made this one a couple days ago. Put it in, let it sit for 4 hours, and I covered it with the lid, but I can lift it right out of that pan and put it down there. And there, what we have is a beautiful chocolate cheesecake, and it is not on the bottom of my cheesecake pan. So what you do is put this on a plate. I forgot to pull a pretty plate to put it on. I'm just going to lay it right on this plastic. But some wonderful things you can do with it. Strawberries are beautiful right now. So I have this sliced strawberry. I'm going to put that on there. Some blueberries around it. They were so gorgeous this morning. We can actually also shave some chocolate on top. And what I have, this is the chocolate. This is a vegan chocolate nugget that you can get. It's vegan, it's dark chocolate. It has limited sugar added, but sprinkle that on top for decoration. And there we have our beautiful chocolate cheesecake. And I hope you can try this at home. Super easy to make. Make it ahead. Get the rest of your stuff ready for your celebration. You don't have to worry about dessert. So enjoy. Happy anniversary to everyone. And now I'm going to pass you off to my friend, and she's going to make another chocolate dessert. Yum.
Well, Jen, that looks absolutely awesome. And I hate to follow you because that looks so wonderful. But today I'm going to be showing you how to make a double chocolate almond pie. And this is a tremendous recipe. I made it a little bit healthier. I saw a recipe on Shane and Sweet, and I just made a lot of modifications to make sure that it is as healthy as it possibly can be. So we're going to start today making our crust, and our crust consists of 1.5 cups of oatmeal. So I'm going to add that to my Blendtec jar. Blendtec is another high performance blender, and I've been using this for 9 years and I absolutely love it. I have a cup of walnuts, and then I have a 1/2 cup of slivered almonds. So I'm adding that. I am going to pulse this to get it all mixed up. And by the way, I forgot to say happy anniversary to all of my Food for Life instructors and so many cooks in a kitchen. It seems like it was yesterday when I first joined this wonderful group of instructors, and it has been a tremendous journey. I know that it started through COVID, but what an opportunity for us to change lemons into lemonade and really reach out to our public on Facebook, on YouTube. And I just thank all of my fellow instructors for being there and making this as beautiful as possible. So anyway, I'm going to continue this. And now I am going to take 1/3 cup of pure maple syrup. I'm going to add that to the blender, and I am just going to pulse it a couple of times to get it all blended up. And I was raised in the South, same as Jen, and I know that whenever there's a celebration, you have to have dessert. And it is really important that we make that dessert as healthy as possible. And that's what I've tried to do with this recipe. So I'm pulsing this, making sure it's all wet, all sticky, so that it's going to adhere to the sides of my pie pan or my pie plate. And when we're using oatmeal and almonds and walnuts, we're just getting a whole lot of fiber. And we know that fiber is so essential for our health. And, you know, you kind of feel like if you're getting that fiber, you can indulge just a little bit. So here we go. My last pulse. Okay, and it's all nice. As you can see, it's crumbly, but it's sticky. So it's going to adhere to all of, to the sides of my pie plate. And I've kind of cheated. I did this in advance so we could save some time, but you can see that I have this cute little fluted pie plate, and I've already put my pie shell in here. I was doing something similar to Jen. I was using regular gloves, and I was pressing it to the sides so that it was not sticking to my fingers, and also it was adhering nicely to the side here. So the next thing I'm going to do is I am going to be making the filling. So the crust truly only took me a couple of minutes to do. Well, my filling has 2 cartons of extra firm silken tofu. Now this is shelf stable, and I love using this Morinu tofu. It can stay on your shelf probably up to 10 months. I like it because I don't always use tofu on a regular basis. So this is always in my cabinet. I also melted 1 cup of chocolate. And I don't know if you have tried this, but this is Nestle's Toll House chocolate. This is semi-sweet. And why I use this is it's 1, vegan. It has no peanuts, no tree nuts, of course, no eggs or milk, wheat-free, soy-free. So it is vegan, and it's one of the less expensive. Some of your vegan chocolates can get very pricey, and so this one is not, and I like that. So I melted that already because it takes about up to 5 minutes, but I wanted to make sure that this was running smoothly. So I have that melted. I also am going to add a 1/2 cup of raw almond butter. And this is just, all it is the ground up almonds. And you can make that with your high-speed blender if you have one. And it just makes it super easy. And then the next step, I am going to add my cocoa. Now, this is Hershey's cocoa, and it says 100% cacao. And you may question, what is the difference between cocoa and cacao? Well, the cocoa powder has actually been roasted where the cacao is more raw. So that's the difference there. But I am going to add that to our jar. And the last piece I am going to do is add my vanilla. And I just had my vanilla here. Oh, here it is, hiding on me. So I'm adding my vanilla, and now I am going to blend this up. And we want to make sure that it's all incorporated, and we also want to make sure that it's nice and fluffy and has a lot of air in it. So we're going to do this for about a minute, okay? Now, for me, this has been one of the easiest recipes. And I serve this at Easter, and I promise you, all of my non-vegan family members absolutely loved it. So I think that this will be a hit for not only your vegan family, but also your non-vegan family. So you don't have to worry about who you are serving it to. They're going to love it no matter what. And if you don't want to use the almond, almond butter, you can also use peanut butter. Okay, and I'm going to use my scraper. And I'm going to give a shout out to Pampered Chef scrapers because they are great, especially if you have a Blendtec. They go down the sides of these jars so easily. Okay, my last blend here. Last time. Okay, and now we have just a really super creamy filling. And I'm going to pour this into our pie, or into our pie crust. And this has to be refrigerated as well. And I usually refrigerate 2 to 3 hours minimum. But I usually like to make this the day or night before I want to serve it, so it will be nice and cold. And oh my heavens, the smell is just awesome. You know, that's the bad part about Zoom. You just can't smell everything. So I'm going to spread this, make it nice and pretty and smooth. And once again, just like Jen said, you don't want to put any covering on this yet. You want to make sure that it is nice and cool and refrigerated. The set is there, and then you can add your covering. But here is our pie. I actually didn't make another pie to show you what it looks like, but at the end, before I serve it, I'm going to put a strawberry on top. I also have some more of our chocolate chips, and I am going to sprinkle those on top, but really the strawberry is going to be the accent. So here is my beautiful pie, and it's going to be yummy come tomorrow, okay? So once again, to all of my Food for Life instructors, I wish you all a happy anniversary. I enjoyed these So Many Cooks in the Kitchen presentations, and I can't wait till June 5th when we do our summer soups and salads. So now I am going to send you over to Karen, and Karen is going to give us one more fabulous ending to our show. So take it away, Karen.
Thanks, Debbie. That looks delicious. I just want to say happy anniversary to all the cooks, and thank you to all the people who have been watching all year. It has been one of the highlights of a year that actually highlighted how important it is for us to take care of our health. So I'm going to be making a strawberry cheesecake bite, and this is a healthy and nutritious, delicious dessert, celebratory food. Just lightens up the cheesecake recipes, so you get all of the flavor and none of the guilt. So the first thing that we are going to use is strawberries, and this recipe makes enough for 2 pounds of strawberries. I had 1 pound. I've kind of eaten a few, but they smell so good, and I'm just going to get those out of the way for a minute. Our base then is going to be the Japanese sweet potato instead of nuts. Like a lot of the vegan cheesecakes are full of nuts. So this one is nice, rich, and creamy with just the Japanese sweet potato. But if you want to make it even richer, you can add a handful or a quarter cup of cashews. It's still going to be a lighter version of a cheesecake, but it's totally not necessary. So all I did with the yams or the sweet potatoes was slice them and steam them in my Instant Pot. You could steam them on the stove. You could bake them. Baking them makes them a little sweeter, but then you have to add a little more water because they're drier, so it's kind of 6 one, half a dozen the other. But they're sweet and to start with, so you don't need to add a lot of extra sweetener. And they're a good source of potassium, which is alkalizing, and it kind of neutralizes the bone-depleting acids and prevents so much calcium from being excreted. And then we're going to use lemon juice, which is a good source of vitamin C. It also gives our dessert that tart flavor like a cheesecake has. And then we have vanilla extract, which really makes this dessert yummy. I'm going to add a little bit of salt, just a pinch, but that's totally not necessary if you're not using salt. It just kind of brings out the sweetness of the mixture. And then my sweetener of choice, you don't need a lot, but I'm just going to bump up the sweetness of the sweet potato with a little bit of date sugar. And it is just dried ground dates, so it's a sweetener with fiber and minerals that help your body use the sugars that are in the dates, so it's not going to spike your blood sugar as much as, say, white sugar would. But you can use whole dates. You can use maple syrup or any sweetener that you prefer. Some of the low glycemic sweeteners, just adjust for the amount for how much sweetness is in the sweetener that you choose. And the last ingredients that I'm going to use is water and agar powder. So agar is it's a vegan substitute for gelatin, and it's actually made from the cell wall of a red seaweed, and it's full of minerals and fiber. So actually the fiber absorbs glucose in your stomach and then escorts it through the digestive system quickly. So it helps with preventing spikes in blood sugar. And it also escorts the excess hormones and cholesterol out of your system. So those are the few simple ingredients. And I'm going to lower my screen so you can see what I'm going to do. First, I'm going to take one of the strawberries. And what you want to do, you can just pull the hull off and use a paring knife to hollow it out a little bit. I have this handy dandy tool that was a gift and just easily takes it out, and you get a nice hole in the middle to fill. And then you just want to cut off the tip of your strawberry so it will stand up and you'll be able to fill it. And then we're going to just place all the other ingredients except the water and the agar into a blender. So I have my mashed Japanese sweet potatoes, and I'm going to pour the lemon juice, the vanilla extract, and I'm going to use a little bit of salt, and my date sugar, whatever sweetener you're using. And then I'm just going to put that aside for a second. And the last thing I'm going to do is just have some room temperature water. And actually, we're going to stir in the agar powder. So it doesn't really dissolve all the way until it's heated. So you just want to stir it in and then heat it to boiling and then let it boil or reduce the heat to low and let it simmer for 5 minutes, stirring constantly, and it's going to thicken up as this agar dissolves into the water. It's going to thicken a little bit, but then it really thickens as it cools. So once you have done that for 5 minutes, you can pour it into your blender and blend it all until smooth. And then you're just going to pour it into a pastry bag, or if you don't have a pastry bag, you can use a Ziploc bag or any kind of sandwich bag and just snip off the corner. And then you're just going to fill those strawberries and fill it all the way up. Leave a lot on top because it's good stuff. And there we have a fun celebratory food that is really low fat, and it has all of the flavor of the cheesecake and just health supportive instead of health depleting. So again, I want to say happy anniversary to all of us and to everyone who's been watching all along. And thank you for watching. Now we're going to go to Q&A. So back to you, Dilip.
All right. I'm sitting here in Durham thinking of all those wonderful foods that everybody made, and I wish I could have a sample of each one of them. They were all so good. So I wanted to, first of all, again, wish everybody a happy anniversary and thank all our viewers who are watching with us right now. And we're ready to take questions. So let's see if we can get our cooks back in the studio here. And first of all, Janan, thanks for hanging with us. You're in Abu Dhabi, and it's after midnight, so you really are dedicated, which is awesome. Thanks for being with us. So I wanted to start with a couple of questions. So Janan, you talked about your mocktail, and I was cleaning up in my kitchen. I missed a little bit of your presentation, but I'll watch it afterwards. Are there other things you could make besides pina colada? For example, I love mangoes, and as you know, I love citrus. So are there other things that one could do?
Oh, sure. You could use any fruits really for making mocktails. Mangoes work wonderfully, and strawberries. Who's not had a strawberry daiquiri? So all the fruits that we love, we can turn them into mocktails. And every now and then it's nice to have a little bit of rum or something, but in Abu Dhabi, it's so hot that when you're out on the beach or on a lawn at 120 some degrees, the alcohol gets to you. So I prefer to have the mocktails. They're healthier and they're still festive and wonderful.
Very true.
So Shobha, can you talk more about burgers? You also used an ingredient that I used. You used beets, and that was really neat. What are some other hints you have about making burgers?
They're really easy to make. Burgers can be made with whatever you have in your pantry. You really don't have to go shopping for it or find things. If you have a bag of frozen veggies or anything of that sort, you can just add it. And potatoes, sweet potatoes are a good combination. And I love to add beets simply because it resembles the color of real burgers, you know. So kids and young adults and adults will love it. And flavor it with whatever flavors that are your favorite and your family favorite. That's what I always mention to all my clients, to flavor your food adequately so it becomes palatable and enjoyable.
That sounds great. Everybody seems to love burgers, and To be honest, I often buy prepared burgers, but making it from scratch is great.
Yes, all of that. I took 1 cup of vegetables, finely diced vegetables, about 10 vegetables each. It made about 15 to 18 burgers, nice sized burgers.
Nice.
And doesn't take too long. You can freeze it as well, and you can save it for another day. You can sprinkle it on your salad. There's so many different options how you can use it.
Nice. So, Angelita, you were with orzo, and I cook with orzo as well. I sometimes have trouble finding a whole grain orzo. Luckily now there are several whole grain orzos that are available. Can you talk about types of orzo you use and any hints about making sure it doesn't stick?
Well, one thing with the orzo, so the whole wheat one I found at a local grocery store here called Ingles, and that's the only place I've been able to find that whole wheat one. There is just the plain semolina one, and then there's a multicolored one as well. The way I keep it from sticking is as soon as it's done, just rinse it under some cold water, and that'll stop the cooking process. At that time, you really want to add your flavoring to it. So if you're doing the balsamic vinegar, or if you're doing the hummus or the mayo, because then it's still warm on the inside, it's cold on the outside, but it will absorb the flavor, and that'll keep it from sticking as well.
Great. I love orzo. It's such a neat ingredient, and it's an underused ingredient. A lot of people don't know about it. It's really a pasta, but you can kind of treat it as a rice. The texture is nice, and it's kind of fail-safe. Sometimes rice can be mushy or can be a little undercooked, but orzo, for me at least, seems to be pretty fail-safe, and I wish we could popularize it more. I think it's a well-deserved ingredient in the modern kitchen. But it's not a modern food. It's an old Italian staple, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's so versatile. I mean, you can make it sweet, you can make it savory, you can take pecans and kind of toast them in a in a coated pan. Add some maple syrup to that pan, and it'll coat the pecans. Put that into your cold orzo, and then squeeze some fresh citrus juice in there with a little bit of maple syrup, and add some cranberries or grapes, and you've got a whole nother dish. But still, the base of it is that orzo. I mean, it's just let your imagination run wild with it.
Susanna, one thing I really liked about your presentation is you had all these dipping sauces, and maybe that's one area that my cooking could improve. I often neglect additional sauces, and cooks like you, Mark's another great example, Suzanne as well, and many of you integrate nice sauces. And I sometimes think about it, and then I'll blend maybe some nutritional yeast and maybe some beans or maybe a little bit of cashew. But can you talk more about your dipping sauces and other general hints? Because I think it's true for all of us. At least I tend to make things just on the fly and figure things out. So are there some techniques for making sauces where you don't have to kind of look things up, or just a good way that you'll end up with a reasonable sauce?
That's a good question, Dilip. Yeah, I do like to, because we like to eat bowls a lot. So we'll have, we'll make a grain and veggies and other things that we like to just put in a bowl and eat all together. So I like to make sauces, and I've made some savory, some sweet. Sometimes I'll use nuts, but often I like to skip the nuts, and I will use beans, white beans. I know someone mentioned using those. So just like Shobha said, use the spices, the flavors that you like. So silken tofu, white beans, tahini, almonds are all, grind them up and put the different kind of spices that you like in them. I'll use different vinegars, some apple cider vinegar, those kinds of things, red wine vinegar, to just make different combinations and add spices. Sometimes I'll even use the nutritional yeast, and it's kind of start with little ingredients first and see how it tastes, and then decide to your taste buds what other things could you add.
Well, I agree with you. I think this is one thing which separates a good cook from a much better cook. It's those subtle flavors, and you don't have to go over the top. My parents immigrated from India, and we generally don't like Indian restaurants because they overspice things, especially North Indian restaurants. At home, we do add a variety of spices, but in small quantities. And I think that's one thing I'd invite our viewers to play with different flavors. You know, if you like citrus, like I obviously do, try mixing it in things that aren't expected. Sometimes I make khichdi, which is a Indian dish, and instead of adding lemon juice, I'll put tangerine juice in. I make rice pudding. It's been years since I've made rice pudding, but when I make it, I boil my rice in orange juice or tangerine juice. And last time I made it, I hadn't discovered triple cross tangerines. Can you imagine now if I squeeze some triple cross tangerines, which I've been bragging about, they're so good, and I boil rice in it, I mean, it would be a dish fit for a king or a queen. and along those lines, Suzanne and then Mark, I wanted you to talk about some common foods. So Suzanne, you worked with buffalo cauliflower bites. A lot of our friends who aren't vegan or who aren't vegan yet, or who aren't whole food plant-based, look for comfort foods. And we did have a show on comfort foods. What was it, 2 months ago maybe? Or maybe it was last month. I think it was last month. So when you make something like buffalo cauliflower bites, do you find that your non-plant-based friends jump on this and say, this is really good? And do they compare it to, you know, a meat version, or do they, what is their feedback when they get foods like your bites, which looked amazing?
Thank you. I have to admit, I've been sitting here eating them. You can see everything's gone. So it's funny because if I try to call them, you know, like my kids will say something, you know, like it's fake chicken, or so I don't like that, because I'm not trying to make fake chicken. I'm trying to make a delicious cauliflower bite, and people always want to compare it to something that they would order at a restaurant. So, you know, like at Buffalo Wild Wings, perhaps. So, you know, so they do tend to compare it, but I try to come up with other names for items because I don't really like it being compared, because I mean, the reality is that the texture of cauliflower is not going to be the exact texture of chicken, nor should it be. And, but I do get great feedback because everybody's always like, wow, these are really good. So it's a huge surprise that something, you know, that wasn't, you know, your standard American diet of chicken was delicious, you know, even though it's prepared in a similar manner. So I really do think that it's the seasonings, it's the way we flavor foods that really make the biggest difference on how people enjoy them. So when you know, still create a good spice to it, you have a good kick. Or sometimes I'll make them and I'll put some, I'll make them a little bit more sweet, or I'll add some mustard to the same sauce that I have, and I'll make it more of a, you know, more of like a mapley mustard dressing. It's also really good. And, you know, you can just vary the seasonings. And I think it's best for people that aren't plant-based. I think they want something that is a substitute until they really make that full transition. So it does work in that case as a substitute, but I really like to try to present it just as something different.
And many of our dishes were savory dishes, and this has come up a few times today and in past shows. Maybe Suzanne, you could also talk about what is nutritional yeast, sometimes called nooch. What is it?
So it's, no, it's, I'm always confused by it too, to be honest. So it's not the same type of yeast that you have in breads. It's a different type of yeast, and it has a nutty, cheesy flavor. It's actually really high in B vitamins, especially B12. So it makes a really good substitute. If you mix it in with dry, like with a dry ingredient, it's a little bit more of a flaky, like something a little more flaky, but you can also mix it into a liquid and then it'll just sort of like dissolve within it. So you can really use it for a lot of different recipes. It's very easily found. It's one of the most common brands is called Bragg's, B-R-A-G-G-S, I believe. And it comes in a couple different sizes. I believe Bob's Red Mill also makes one. And a lot of, and at a lot of markets where they sell things by bulk, you can also buy it in bulk.
Yeah, that's where I get it. I get it in bulk, and you can buy as little or as much as you want. It has a nice kind of cheesy flavor. I don't seek cheese typically, but people describe it as kind of a cheesy flavor. It adds it's rather pronounced, and if you get the enriched, it's also high in in B vitamins, although I should defer to Karen. Karen, can you talk a little bit about the nutrition of nutritional yeast? Because you've made some very nice comments about nutritional yeast in the past. Can you share a little bit about nutritional yeast from a nutrition point of view?
Yeah, so I prefer to get the ones that are not fortified. Some people want it fortified to get the B12, but a lot of times the fortified ones are fortified with synthetic vitamins, which makes your liver and gallbladder work a little harder. So there's controversy, but that's my opinion. But I love nutritional yeast, and just something that Suzanne said made me think, I mean, and this might be controversial too, but I think that meat is just a carrier for the flavors, for the sauces, for the spices and everything. And vegetables can do that as well. So
I agree with you. Mother Nature has created such a flavor palette. There's and that's just in the plant kingdom. There's so much in the plant kingdom that's so flavorful. So there are all these foods. We're demonstrating some of them, and there are available in the grocery stores. You can get vegan hot dogs. You can get vegan sausages, and these are transition foods. My daughter occasionally likes when she goes camping, she'll sometimes buy vegan hot dogs, and for a couple times a year, that's not bad. Are they the healthiest product? The way we make them, they probably are, but the ones we purchase, maybe not. But when you compare them to the Danny Annabelle hot dog, they're far better. They're usually far lower in sodium, nitrates. Did you know that processed meats are? Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. Is it a type 2 carcinogen? They are recognized by the World Health Organization as
processed meats are a type 1 carcinogen.
And speaking of type 1 carcinogens, so in the old days, we used to, I didn't, but a lot of people used to smoke, some of our parents perhaps, and then it was identified as being a carcinogen. I believe the fatality rate from eating, these kinds of meats, processed meats, is actually higher than smoking. So hopefully people will get the word and cut down or go completely plant-based. But that leads me to Mark. So Mark, one thing that was remarkable about your presentation, at least for me, because I'm not a griller, I don't know how to grill. And when I saw you grilling, it made me feel like a little boy saying, wow, this is something I have no clue how to do. You're an expert, Mark. So can you talk about your barbecued ribs and kind of the same question that we were talking about with Susanna a minute ago in terms of these being substitutes? What do your non-vegan friends think about it? And is this an easy thing that you typically prepare for like 4th of July parties or other outdoor entertaining?
Yeah, so, the barbecuing, I guess, it's kind of a Midwest tradition, if you will, especially over the summertime, to get out there and be the grill master, and when I first went vegan, I didn't do a lot of grilling. And then as I've evolved and started playing around with different flavors and different textures, and now found this recipe that I made today, I just find that it's a fun recipe. It's not something, I make maybe once or twice a year. And friends will comment that, this tastes really, really good. And I think, we've used that word about meat or vegetables really being the carrier of flavors. And I find that vegetables now, having been born and raised a carnivore as best as any of us have been raised eating meat, that, I taste my foods more today, and there's more of a depth of flavor. And as I work with people that are transitioning to being whole food plant-based, they'll say the same thing, that I taste my foods more. I taste a greater variety of flavors. I had a student this past week say, he was making something in the kitchen, and his 2 kids, who one's a teenager, one's a preteen, walked into the kitchen, and they're not vegan, but he's transitioning to be 100% vegan. Said, Dad, that smells really good. We haven't smelled anything like that. And that's exactly what you want to hear from a student. You want to hear from the family members, is that you want to hear them experiencing the depth and the breadth of flavors and spices. And some of these spices, talking about whole wheat orzo and nutritional yeast and smoked paprika. These are some things that are really common, but you asked me 5 years ago before I was vegan, I never really heard of any of these. So that's that's what really, outside of the obviously the food tasting really good, that friends and family just comment that the range of flavors and the depth of flavors is something that they haven't experienced before. So
Well, I totally agree with you, and I think sometimes some of my students talk about a change in palate, and there is a change in palate, and it's a welcome change, right? So if you're used to something, the tongue takes something like 21 days to change. So if you have a great love for, a lot of people seem to have a great love for bacon, for example, and I think even people who aren't moving towards plant-based eating, I think recognize that it's no health food. It's not good for you. And so if you lay off it, you say, okay, I had a temptation. I don't want it. I'm not going to buy it. Actually, the same thing happened to me when I got married. When I'd go shopping, I wasn't whole food plant-based. I was vegan. I was not whole food plant-based. And always when I go grocery shopping, I'd always pick up a bag of potato chips or corn chips or tortilla chips. I make my own tortilla chips now. And so Sangeeta, my wife, mentioned one time, she said, Dilip, you cook pretty well, but you are using some oil, which I don't do anymore. But why are you buying what literally is junk food? And so, I do like potato chips. They taste good, but I don't buy them anymore. So, if I'm hungry and I open the cupboard and there's no potato chips, I don't have potato chips to eat. And now I know some healthy ways to make potato chips. But, if I go to a party, a potluck, a vegan potluck, and there's a bowl of potato chips, I'll definitely have a few, because I like them. But having a few 3-4 times a year is one thing. Having in your cupboard is different. So that's one thing, is not buying these foods and being used to new flavors, giving your tongue a chance, give it 3 weeks, lay off that food and then see what the flavors are like. And speaking of flavors, Carolyn, I was wondering if you could share, I'm going to ask a silly question. I apologize. You were talking about deviled eggs. I kind of don't know what they are. I'm probably the only person who doesn't. So can you talk a little bit about what is a deviled egg and how, because you were relying on people to relate what you did to deviled eggs, and I kind of don't know what they are. So can you tell us what they are, and how does your lovely looking dish, what does it taste like?
I'm not sure if it's just a Southern delicacy or if it's all of the United States kind of thing, but I remember my grandmother in Wisconsin made them too, so I'm pretty sure it's just a USA kind of dish, but it's an egg that has been boiled. And you, from what I remember, it's been a really long time since I've seen this made, but you take the boiled egg, peel the shell off the outside of it, scoop the yolk out, and then cut the white part in the middle in half, and then lay it in one of these nice deviled potato trays. And then you take the yolk and mix it with, I don't remember, honestly, mayonnaise, and I don't know what all was in it, but this is better. But it's very similar to what deviled eggs were, and I don't actually remember why they were called deviled. I think it may be the paprika sprinkled on the top was red. I don't know what made them deviled, but maybe somebody else remembers what a deviled egg actually is. But I know it involves chicken eggs, boiled, cut in half, take the yolk out, and mix the yolk with like mayonnaise and seasonings of some kind, and put dollops of it back into the white part. And so this is kind of mimicking a deviled egg, but making it with deviled potatoes.
I'll have to try your recipe, then I'll know what the deviled egg is.
It actually tastes very much like deviled eggs, honestly, because of the colonamic that's in it. The colonamic gives it that sulfuric flavor. So,
and we were discussing colonamic. Colonamic, my parents are from India, literally means black salt. It's readily available in South Indian stores. It's mined in Gujarat region, in Sindh, I think, the western part of India, and in Pakistan. But it's actually pink in color, and it's kind of sulfurous. I love colonamic, and in fact, one of my, I don't know if it's one of my published recipes, but my grandfather, one of his favorite dishes, it's so simple. It just, you chop a tomato, you put a little colonamic, and you put a little ground cumin, and that's it. It's so good.
Well, that sounds really good. I know usually you use very little of it because of that sulfuric flavor, but in this case we wanted it to taste like eggs, and so we add more. But
And that's another
Whatever.
hint for folks out there. If you want to elevate your cooking, pick up a new spice. So, when we started So Many Cooks in the Kitchen, a lot of the cooks were talking about a smoked paprika. And I've heard of it, but I never bought it. And I smoke my own pepper sometimes, but I've never made a pepper. And because of all of you, I bought some and I like it. I'm not crazy about it. Some of you guys are, but my daughter likes it. My wife likes it. And I like it. It's pretty good. So it's fun. There's so many different things to cook. It's fun to kind of expand our palate and keep trying new things. And maybe I shouldn't apologize. I do it just about every time. So I brag for a reason. So I've known my wife, 17 years or something like that, and I've never repeated dinner for her. And I know it sounds like I'm putting myself on a pedestal, and that's not the intent. The intent is that it's so easy. I'm not professionally trained as a chef, and if I can have 17 years of unique dinners, I think others can as well. So that leads me, Cody, to you, your black bean brownies. One thing we talk about in Food for Life is we talk about not only a vegan and whole food plant-based, but we also talk about limited fat. And Donna just made a comment. Some people call them dressed eggs. I had never heard that. I think I've heard of deviled eggs, but not dressed eggs. So thanks for your comment. But one thing in Food for Life we talk about, and maybe in a minute we should talk more about what is Food for Life, and I'll share some good news also about Food for Life instructors. But we talk about limiting the fat because, and the reason is every single study that has more than 10% fat calories, there's no reversal. If you're looking for reversal of some sort of diabetes or cancer or blood pressure, right? So there are good people, viable people out there who have different thresholds. So we do say 10%. There are, people who say 12 or 15%, but everybody has a threshold. Don't eat more than so much fat. So I wanted you, Cody, to reflect on two things: to talk about the peanut butter and the chocolate in your dish, and how you relate the fat content, and how you relate that as well to children, because of course you have 3 lovely children.
So yeah, I got 3 little girls. So I got, Ava's 12, Ella's 9, and Nora is 4. And so we don't do this dish very often. We still do, mainly, lower fat. Kids, they need their calories, so they snack a lot on healthy things. And so these brownies are, kind of considered healthy. They do have probably a little bit more of a higher fat content, but so you wouldn't want to eat them like all the time, especially if you're looking to, reverse your heart disease or decrease your blood pressure, that type of thing. You probably want to just very much limit this as a nice treat. You wouldn't want to eat them for every meal, type of thing. But yeah, so if you want to really make them more of a reduced fat brownie, then you can go ahead and just take out the peanut butter. That was just an optional item, and maybe reduce the amount of chocolate chips in there, the vegan chocolate chips, to help reduce the overall fat content. But otherwise, everything else in that was very, very low fat. The beans, yeah, hardly any fat, minimal. So yeah, otherwise they're very healthy. So.
Chocolate's great. I love chocolate, and that leads me to Jen. You made this amazing chocolate cheesecake. First of all, are you a professional baker? More beautiful cakes are gorgeous. So can you talk a little bit? Sorry about the feedback. I'm not sure where the feedback's coming from. Do you guys hear the feedback? Sure where that's coming from. Can you talk? I'll mute in a second. Can you talk a little bit, Jen, about different kinds of chocolates? I know in the show we did do some talking. So can you talk about the different kinds of chocolates that you use, and are there things that you look for to make sure they're vegan?
The big over right away, and for allergies, either in bowl, asterisk by it contains milk. It's a way to find out if your says if it's don't be confused, that's a vegan.
So
it's a high fat.
So I'm going to mute you, Jen, because you're very, very distorted. So if your audio gets corrected, please jump back in. But we couldn't hear you. It was very distorted. I think I heard you say that you look for the ingredients, watch out for dairy, watch out for whey, W-H-E-Y, and then you can get great chocolates. One thing I like to tell people, if you like chocolate, you want vegan chocolate, because when you're eating chocolate, as you add milk, even there are vegan milk chocolates using rice milk, for example, and oat milk. You're diluting that chocolate, you know, the cacao. So if you like chocolate, the best way to eat chocolate is really cacao nibs, which is the pure cocoa. Excuse me, and it's kind of the real thing. Karen, can you talk as well? You made strawberry cheesecake bites. One thing that I do in my kitchen is I insist on organic for berries, and for our viewers, I don't want to make too big a point of this. Go plant-based, go vegan, and if you know you're getting not organic strawberries, so be it. But did you want to talk a little bit about berries and organics, Karen?
Sure. I buy organic everything, and like if I can't get it organic, I usually don't buy it. I won't use it. But strawberries are one of the most the worst things to eat that are not organic. They have the most spray or the most pesticides remain on the strawberries. Yeah, and so I did an internship, a couple of internships in Michigan one time, and they had all these beautiful farms and lots of blueberries, but none of them were organic. So you know, I was up there and I didn't have any blueberries. But yeah, I mean, your health is important, and sure, plants. You know, if you can't afford organic, but I think it's not that much more, and it's totally worth it just not to have the pesticides and the glyphosate and you know, just as much natural as you can put into your body will make your body work for you.
So this has been a great show. You know, this has been a great year. And before we wrap up, I wanted to see if one of you would like to share what is Physicians Committee? What is PCRM? Who would like to take that? Mark, why don't you talk about what is PCRM? You have some of PCRM books behind you.
I do. Yeah, I do. So PCRM is a Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine, founded by Dr. Neil Barnard in 1985. And you see a couple of Dr. Barnard's books behind me, The Cheese Trap and Kickstart, and his diabetes book. And PCRM has one of the many things that they do is they support and have developed Food for Life instructors, which we are all. We're all trained and licensed by PCRM. They also do a lot of lobbying in Washington for food and health advocacy, as well as animal rights, and really working with healthcare institutions to limit and eliminate animal testing. So really a great organization. Highly recommend you go to PCRM.org and check out their website. Lots of great health information and advocacy information, and lots of information to download. You know, and almost like 300 recipes on their website. I always tell my students, you know, all the recipes we talk about in classes, they're all on the website. Go to PCRM.org. You're going to have more recipes than you can make in a year.
Yeah, I agree. I feel so honored to be a part of PCRM, to be an instructor for PCRM, because we really focus on evidence-based information. There's a lot of nutrition information out there, but it's really important to look at what the evidence says. So who could piggyback on Mark? And Janan, can you talk about what is Food for Life? Yeah, but you're muted. So after midnight, Janan, tell us what you think.
Okay, I'm unmuted. It's after midnight. I can keep my eyes open. So Food for Life is a program of the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine, and we, Food for Life instructors, promote the Food for Life program. It's a wonderful curriculum prepared by doctors and registered dietitians and other experts in the field. And all the classes are given basically in video form by the experts, and we are the conduits for sharing these lessons with our students. And the Food for Life lesson, after the theoretical part that's being discussed by the doctors and registered dietitians, we take on and teach the cooking part. We demonstrate in practical ways how people can transition to a whole food plant-based lifestyle. Because often people think it's something really hard to start eating whole food plant-based. However, when they learn the evidence-based information behind these theoretical lessons, and then when they see how we make these practical cooking lessons so much fun and such delicious foods, then I think they're sold. So I don't know if I could say more about the Food for Life. There's a very competitive, let's say, selection process for the Food for Life instructors. I understand it's something like only 30% of us make it through the selection process. So I guess they put their faith in us to share this amazing curriculum with the people out there. And I'm happy to be, really proud to be in that small group of, I think we're about 300 now around the world.
Yeah.
And I'm very happy to be within that group.
And you're a representative in Abu Dhabi.
Yes.
We are about 300 and we're across the United States. We also have instructors in Canada, Australia, England, Hungary, Brazil. We have affiliates in India, in China, I believe. So, and so we all got great news from headquarters recently, and that is, so with the pandemic, we closed down, certifying more instructors, but that's opening up. And I just posted that there is a deadline, and that is August 23rd to be trained. And the decision has been made that the training, I think, is going to be virtual. So we haven't had, usually it's twice a year, and now I think we missed the last two. So there's lots of folks out there, including perhaps people in the audience. And so I highly recommend, joining us. And what it takes is you need to be vegan. You definitely have to be vegan, and you don't have to necessarily be limited fat yet, because the headquarters staff will train you in that. And then you have to. There's a process. You have to submit some videos of your cooking, and you have to have some letters of reference and a variety of other things. So if you're at all interested, check out fflclasses.org. And then finally, let's see, Cody, could you talk about both So Many Cooks and So Many Kids in the Kitchen? That was an idea that came up about a year ago. This is our 1-year anniversary for the cooks, and the kids' anniversary is coming up in August, I guess.
Yeah, so you want me to talk about So Many Kids, you said?
Yeah, you could talk about both if you'd like.
Well, okay, so, the So Many Cooks in the Kitchen is us, as well as a few other instructors, Food for Life instructors, who just weren't able to join us for this 1-year anniversary show. So I think there's about like 30 of us that have cooked within this past year. And some of you guys have been there for every episode. I think Dilip, of course.
Raise your hand if you've been in everyone.
I think I missed one.
John, Carolyn, Karen, and almost Susanna, right? Almost Susanna.
Yeah. Almost.
And,
I think I missed.
And almost Cody too.
Almost, yeah. Maybe this next year that will be my goal, is to make it to every episode. But anyway, so all of us are Food for Life instructors, and it was a year ago that we decided we wanted to work together and make lemonade out of lemons with the pandemic, like Debbie had said earlier, and just do something fun, provide this service where we can educate others all over the world and collaborate, learn from each other. And it has just been such a fun ride. And I'm just very thankful to have known each and every one of you this whole year. And I'm excited to what we will do down the road. And also with the So Many Cooks, I had fortunately been able to collaborate a lot with Dilip, and we also included Ella Rodriguez, who's another Food for Life instructor, and so many cooks in the kitchen. And so our kids, so Anu, Dilip's daughter, and then Ella's kids, Mia and Max, and then my 3 daughters, Ava, Ella, and Nora, we formed the So Many Kids in the Kitchen. And so we do cooking shows about every other month, and then we occasionally have special guests join us. And so we're thrilled to do these shows. The kids have so much fun. We literally just let them take the lead, and we just kind of stand back behind the camera and just kind of run things from there. And it's just been such a treat. And we have another show coming up June 12th, and they're going to do like so many, it's like summer foods. And so I think my girls are going to do like carrot dogs and maybe grilled corn, just those kinds of things. I'm not sure what Nora's going to do yet. You just never know with that little girl what she's going to do. So
does corn grow in Nebraska?
Oh yeah. But it's just been such a treat. I feel like I've really gotten to know each and every one of you, and I can't wait for someday for all of us just to get together and cook together and just celebrate. So it's just been a joy.
Well, kind of a little bit about that is I encourage folks to look up PCRM. We have a conference every year called International Conference on Nutrition and Medicine. And most of the people who attend are doctors, healthcare providers, but you don't have to be. And it's a great conference. It's coming up. And apparently we're going to, some of our video is going to show up at the conference. So I encourage you guys to check out ICNM, also PPOD, Plant-Based Prevention of Disease. I think PPOD is going on right now. It's going to be held 3 different times this year. So one of, can't remember who it was. It was Sarai, actually, and Tammy. So my colleague Sarai and I made a movie called Code Blue. So Sarai is presenting today at PPOD. So with that,
it was supposed to be in Michigan. So I was actually really looking forward to having Tammy here. I was excited to get together with her, and then I was excited just to go to PPOD. So unfortunately, it's virtual. So maybe next year we'll be back.
Yeah, PPOD was in person in Michigan just before the pandemic, I think.
No, it was supposed to be last May,
Okay.
and that was also I don't even know if that was made virtual. I think it was canceled last year. I could be wrong, but because it was kind of early on, it was early May last year.
Yeah, last year I think it became virtual because I attended last year. It's a good conference. So yeah, I encourage folks to get out there. There's lots of great evidence-based information, and if nothing else, if you don't want to go, at least encourage your healthcare providers. A lot of doctors don't have this information, and we have great people like Cody who's trying to share this in the medical community. Cody is a nurse educator, and so there's lots of great resources for your healthcare providers. Another great resource I need to mention is Michael Greger, Nutrition Facts. He has a lot of great information about plant-based eating. It's all evidence-based. So with that, we're so thankful. Happy anniversary, Cody, Janan, Jen, Carolyn, Karen, Mark, Susanna, Suzanne, and Shoba. Happy anniversary to all of us. It's been great getting to Carolyn. I've known you for some years, so it's just a great opportunity to continue to build our friendship. And everybody else, I'm just so thankful that I've been able to get to know you guys, and I'm only sorry that we're not in person, but it's been a great experience for me, and I hope that those of you watching that you've enjoyed our shows and will continue to enjoy our shows. Does anybody else have any parting words of wisdom before we say bye?
I think we're back June 5th.
Yeah, June 5th.
Thank you to Plant-Based Network.
Yeah, right. So our shows,
Plant-Based Network. Thank you so much for having us on your network.
Thank you, Plant-Based Network, for carrying our show, and so you'll start seeing more and more of the shows on Plant-Based Network. Jen, is your audio back? Because I know you had you couldn't charge. Because maybe you could tell us what our June show is about. No.
Bye.
We can see you, but we can't hear you. So our June show is so many summer soups and salads, and the summer soups may only be me. I make a great gazpacho soup. Maybe very quickly we can go around. If you know what you're making, if you're cooking in June, I'm making my watermelon gazpacho, and a lot of people have said they love it. Cody, what are you making in June? Do you know?
I'm not sure yet, Dilip.
No problem, John.
Dilip, I think I'm joining you in with the soup, but I haven't 100% decided.
Can't wait. Jen, I guess you may not be able to talk. Carolyn, what are you making? I love your hat.
Thank you. My party hat. It's a chilled strawberry mint coconut soup.
Another soup. And Jen has tapped me on the shoulder and said, kale and couscous salad. That sounds great. Suzanne, do you know what you're making in June?
I'm not sure yet. Maybe a salad.
Okay, sounds good.
I actually did a cold soup last year. That was honeydew and cucumber. That was great. I could repeat it, but I did it last year. And I also have a recipe for a great cold corn soup. That's also really good. But I was thinking about doing one of my bean salads, but not sure.
Anything you make is always outstanding. I wish I could sample it, but it looks great. Everything everybody makes looks so good.
Everyone's recipes look incredible.
I agree. Susanna, what's up for June? Do you know?
Yeah, I'll be making a macaroni salad. Perfect for picnics and taking out potlucks and things like that. Now that we're all finally able to get back together a little bit.
That's great. And that reminds me that our July show, and it looks like the date is probably going to change to the end of July, but the July show is picnic food. So you could do 2 picnic foods, one for June and one for July.
I might even be in the US then.
Oh, wonderful. Are you coming to North Carolina, Shannon?
Massachusetts, I'm afraid.
We're not that far. Mark, what's up in the Cirque kitchen for June? Do you know?
Something made with plants. How's that? Does that cover all my bases?
It does.
Probably, I'd make this Greek tavernas potato salad. So take us to the Greek Isles, maybe. We'll see.
Ooh, that sounds yummy.
And finally, Karen, what are you thinking of making in June? Do you know?
I'm with Mark. Something with plants. I have a few ideas, but I can't narrow it down.
Cool.
Only 10,000 or more plants to choose from.
I never run out of new things I find in the grocery stores. There's always cool things. Those of you who are watching, feel free to, even after the show's over, you can add comments. If there's something you want us to do, we have a list, and the list is dozens of items which we haven't reached yet. Maybe one on tempeh, maybe one on seitan, maybe one, I think we probably need to repeat the power plate. Those were our first shows. Maybe one on cooking techniques. How about one on air frying, or maybe pressure cooking, maybe grilling food? So we have lots of ideas, but we love to hear your ideas too. So feel free to share them. Hopefully starting next time, we'll actually have emails where you can reach us directly. So we're working on that. So that's coming up. But for now, certainly on Facebook or on YouTube or on Twitter, put your comments, and we'd love to hear what you have to say. So with that, thanks for joining us. Happy anniversary to us, and see you guys at our next shows.
Happy anniversary.
Bye.
Happy anniversary.
Happy anniversary.
Happy birthday. It's already May 20.
So many cooks in the kitchen, so many recipes to share. So many cooks in the kitchen with meals for you to prepare. We've got fruits and grains, veggies and beans, more healthy food than you've ever seen. So many cooks in the kitchen, plant-based meals to prepare. So many cooks in the kitchen with ideas we're happy to share.